Cool. Right, we are streaming according to the internerds. The people over at Google, they're telling us that we're streaming. Hopefully that's all coming through. Now, you guys will probably not see my face because here's my head with eyes and stuff. But let us know if you can hear me talking, and while we're getting all the cameras set up, there's only a couple of people here. I don't even think Ian is actually here at the moment. Even though you can see him, he's not here. So, yes, let us know if you can hear. And what was I going to do? I was going to restart. Ableton seems to have crashed. Well, spinny globe thing happening on Ableton right now. I need to fix that. Let me go into force quit mode. Don't force quit. Live, not responding. Force quit. Bye-bye. Okay. I don't know why it's not responding. Chris is here. They're all jumping in. I'm just setting up. Would you like to recover your work? No, because I definitely didn't need to recover my work. What I do need to do is I need to get... I might actually just set up a new...
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Hi, Ian.
Okay, I'll just get my headphones on.
I might set up a new... if this works... There you go. You guys can see what's going. Report a crash. Well, it didn't crash. I just restarted it. All right. I might just set up a new... What can I do here? Oh, a bit of MIDI coming in. Actually, don't even need MIDI coming in, do I? I can get 29 should be. Ooh, what's going on here? I can't hear that. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. I need to sort some stuff out here. Let's get eurorack happening. We'll get some eurorack channels in here. That's not the right one. That's the right one. Now, if I set up link, okay. Okay, we got some sounds now. Alright, what you guys were hearing just then, I'll just show you, is just the Model D. But what I want to do is I want to set up MIDI into my eurorack. So let's go back to here. So MIDI, we want to get MIDI coming in from... Actually, we'll do it with that. We'll get MIDI coming in from that. We'll go into the FH2 module, which means that's eurorack coming in now. Okay, cool. So you can actually see eurorack here firing off. Okay, and I'm pressing notes here. All right, so we've got eurorack coming in. The only thing I've got to do now is you guys can see eurorack there.
Sounds great.
All I've got to do now is I've got to get the MIDI from the FH2 module, which is over here. You can see my hands. It's kind of right there. You can't see it, but it's literally where my finger is. And I've got to get it across over to the Brains module, which you can see on the left, top left corner. Once we've got that, then we should be able to do some funky stuff. Now, what I want to do, guys, while you guys are sitting there watching with the intrigue, is I want to do the Brains firmware update because I haven't done it yet. And let's do it. Right, so we can do the firmware update now because it's saying, hello, I have a Brains connected, right? So this is the, if you guys are wondering what this is, if you go onto the Behringer website, if you have a Brains, by the way, You go onto the Behringer website and you go into this Behringer Brains page, right? Which is, I'll give you guys the link later. You click on software over here on the right hand side. So actually, I thought there was a way I could zoom in on that. And if you've got Mac or Windows, depending on which one you got, download that, right? That will then download a zip file onto your Mac or PC. You unzip it onto your favorite file location. In my case, I just did it on the desktop here. So there's the actual synth drive app. You double click to launch it, click get started, and it checks to see what firmware is in the little sucker. And it says hello with a massive exclamation mark. There is a firmware update available. Click OK. And then let's update it. And who wants to watch this exciting thing? Isn't this exciting? This is the nerdiest thing ever, right? So when you do a firmware update, where's my mouse gone? Come back, mouse. You literally click update there. And if we have a look at Brains, you can see whilst it's updating, hey, look at that. We can do screen in screen. You can see Brains there and firmware update happening on the... Wouldn't it be cool if your computers could do that? Look at what your eyes are looking at and zoom in and out. Let's see what happens. Oh! It's actually playing a 303 sound. The update is complete. Please wait at least 10 seconds for reboot. If the unit doesn't restart power cycle, well, guess what? We don't need to. We've got 303 sounds come out of it already. How cool is that? Guys, if you ever think, should you do a firmware update on live streaming, TV, video, whatever, I thoroughly recommend it. I've done it plenty of times, and yes, it's train wrecked so many times I've just lost count. But every time it works, you can't complain if it works. All right, so what I was actually hoping for, believe it or not, was it to fail so that we could have something to whinge about, but it didn't. Oh, well. It's good when things work, though, isn't it? By the way, for those who actually did try and do the firmware update the day that they announced it, which was it Tuesday or something, the Mac version didn't work, so they actually had to literally update that synth drive application on their website just to get that update to work on Mac. But the Windows version worked. So there you go. Chatties are now in. Let's see if that button works. Hello, chatties. Let's say hello to everyone. Wow, everyone's here. Many of us have no brains. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And yeah, I've got nothing. Anyway, let's say hello. Shall I turn that off? Okay. Brett Lemmings was the first in. He said, this episode is going to cover the entire history of oscillators. Who started it? Who is going to end it? Well, guess what? It might be about oscillators. Read.
Might not.
Last week was about oscillators, and then I said not about oscillators. Big hello to you, Brett Lemmings, if you're still there, mate. Universal Vibe, hola, he says. Big hello to you. Yeah, weird thing happened with him last week. He got banned out of the channel, so I'm not sure what was going on there. So we've managed to sort that out. I think it was Darren. Actually, it might have been the purple monster, Darren. He might have been accessing your computer.
Pulling knobs again.
Accessing it. Look, it was on iPad. I swear I did not touch ban anything. I know I can't see very well.
Yeah, no one's pointing fingers. We have got Mr. Kent Spong, who is one of our illustrious channel members. Oh, I can tell you a thing or two about oscillators that would make your teeth curl, is what he said when he first joined the chat room. Nice to have you, mate. Cress Head's there. Big hello to you. He reckons oscillators are for girls. Let's go there, shall we? Just ask Robbie, he says. Darren's jumped in. Chris has jumped in. Keith in Watford, another one of our illustrious channel members. I should actually mention too, by the way, that Chris is a channel member too. That's this guy down underneath Darren. We'll get to these guys in a sec though, but it is nice to acknowledge people when they try. Ooh, hello, says Keith in Watford. Culture of Ghosts, big hello to you, matey. Ian jumped in. Jake's 3D mentioned before. He's there. Big hello to you. Another one of our channel members. Who else? Luminiferous Aether. Guys, help me with that. Luminiferous Aether. Hello, he says. Big hello to you. Now, I've completely butchered your nickname there. Please don't run off. Don't be scared. David's another one of our channel members. Big hello to you, mate. Wagoo's there. G'day, Ranz, he says in his English but trying to be Swiss accent.
His northern accent.
That's a good one. I would, do a sample of that. Wags, do a sample. Who else we got? Oh, jeez, it scrolled on me. I hate you scrolling on me, YouTube. Why do you do that? Now I don't know where I'm up to. I'm going to miss a whole bunch of people now because of YouTube. Prometheus UK, big hello to you. And I think Path Lake was next. I think Matt Brown, big hi everyone from Matt Brown. Who else? John Simpson, one of our newest channel members. So it's really nice to have you there. Who keeps doing the 303 stuff, by the way?
It's me. I was just working on something. I didn't realise it.
Okay.
It's my, yeah.
Cool.
Sorry.
Right, where was I up to? Manny's there, Dr. Synth, big hello to you. And that is probably all she wrote for this stage of the show. We are about a couple of minutes away from starting our main show. If you actually are new watching this and you're thinking, geez, what are they actually going to be doing? This is actually not technically the start of the show yet. I haven't pressed the magic button. So this is kind of, we're still waiting on a guest. There's a black screen in the top right-hand corner. And who could that be? We don't know. Well, most people who watch it regularly will know who that is. Right. And I'm going to formally say hello to you guys in here once we get past the start of the show, which is only a minute away according to my computer. So you haven't got long to wait. Cool. Thumbs are up. Awesome. And I was quite happy with the little Behringer Brains update. So the good news is now we can go and check out that module with its new firmware on the flip side of the show after we press the button in about 30 seconds time. And if you are new here and you haven't jumped into chat yet, please go in and say hi. Don't forget to do all the normal sort of stuff. On the flip side of the start of the show, I'm going to introduce a few things that are a little bit different than normal, but let's do this. Many alpacas made this introduction. No, hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to Synth Geekery, episode 195. Couldn't really find anything really that apt for the 195 number, but if anyone has an idea, I didn't really try that hard either, so I probably missed something. Let us know in chat if you have a synthy 195 reference that we could get our teeth stuck into. But what we could do, while we're speaking of references, is we could say happy 303 day, because that was yesterday. In some cases, it may actually still be today. I doubt it, but okay, let's try that. Happy 303 day. So we're going to talk about that for a little briefly for us in a bit. What else have we got? I've got to go through a little checklist because I always forget to do stuff. So first thing off the cab is the StreamYard link. So those of you who want to join the video, like what you're seeing me do, and you want to talk and be part of the show, there's no one in there at the moment. There's a StreamYard link, and to make things easy, so I don't, mate, it's not hard to do. I am going to post that in the chat. You guys can pick up on that and join it if you want. It's not hard. It just means that you might have to show your face on YouTube. And people now know what you look like. No, don't be scared, please. It's actually not too bad. So I'll post that in a sec. But it's just bit.ly/Ranzee StreamYard if you want to know what the URL is to get into that. And jump in, and I'm just keep checking the laptop. The next thing to remind people about is Discord. So Discord is what we run during the week, if that makes sense. So it's not a show-based thing, but it is a, be part of the community. So there's the Discord link. If you aren't on Discord, jump on. It's free. It's one of the rarest social media platforms that aren't bombarded with ads and asking you to, have some sort of, verification check. I don't know what the hell Facebook's on about lately. So there's that. Now, also I need to say a big thank you to our Patreons and channel members. So let's do that now. A big thanks to all these people. By the way, I haven't updated this, so when you see these names, John Simpson's missing off the bottom of it. So John Simpson, apologies, but you will be put on there at the end of this show. Big thank you to you guys. Anyway, so I think I got through that. Don't forget there is a blog that I run on the Ranzee.com website that basically is everything that happens on the show in review, basically. So I will have that blog up and running. I've actually got the website up here. You guys can check it out. I'll have that blog up and running probably in a few hours after the show finishes. You can see there we've already got the Synth Geekery episode ready to rock and roll. Once we've got through all the major segments, I can then upload the photos. But just to give you an idea, last week we did the Not About Oscillators show. Sorry if that pissed anyone off. We didn't get to it. So I actually changed it. We are not talking about oscillators. Anyway, so you can see everything's in there. Links to all our regular guests. We've got all the funny side images are in there. Do you guys remember this one? That was pretty popular. Yeah. And links to everything that we do, photos, videos, everything, right? So you guys get the idea. So check out Ranzee.com, and yeah. Now, enough of that. And by the way, if you do want to be a channel member, there's a little button on your YouTube thing. You can just jump in and join. And we'd appreciate it because it's expensive running the show. Right. Firstly, we are going to say hello to, who's first? Today I'm going to go Darren. Big hello to you, Darren. Unmute yourself and say hi.
I've unmuted myself, I think I have.
You have.
Yes. Hi. Yes. Oh dear. I'm warm today. I'm not cold.
Oh yeah, it was funny last week.
In fact, I'm sweating because my heater's arrived. I can't lift it up to show you because the cable won't reach. But
that's why
so
you're
now
warm.
the studio is it's too hot now. So if I end up just in a t-shirt and a pair of sunglasses after the
You'll know
show,
how we feel.
You'll know why. Yeah. So been an okay week. Cold outside, but warm inside. What have I been doing? Writing it won't be out this week, but I'll be writing a big follow-up track to Sonar because it seemed to do quite well for some reason. I don't know why, but this will be Sonar Deep next week. So that's probably why you heard some of the 303 sounds, because for the last few weeks I've been
Nice.
303 in. So yeah, next week it'll be Sonar Deep, which will be a big one. I'm still finishing off the album. But other than that, that's basically all I've done all this week.
That's good. Awesome. So anyone need to check out anything during the week after the show's finished? Watch for anything?
Yeah, you can check the chat that I put out last week. Perfect Sphere. I know Chris has. He tried it in his car, so that's good sign if it's rocking the car. So, but yeah, the week after Sonar Deep, that'll be next Sunday. That's going to be that's a big track again. It's a follow-up to Sonar, which I was quite surprised did so well. So yeah, watch out for that one, and just play all my videos basically.
Yeah, just subscribe. Link is in the description, by the way, if you're looking for it. Fantastic.
Put them on a playlist.
Yeah. Now, who we got next? I think Ian's next. I'll get to Andy in a sec. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. How is everybody? Yeah, good week actually. I put out my audiophile radio show on Wednesday, and that one is dedicated to Mr. Wiggly. It's just full of Tom's Clownfest performances actually, which was I mean, it's quite emotional, really, when I was doing it. But I just thought it was the right thing to do, really. You know, it's not on YouTube yet. It won't be for about another week or so. But it's on all whatever podcasts you use. You can probably get it through Amazon and iTunes and everybody. I went to the York E-Mom on Wednesday night as well. I wasn't meant to be playing because I'd given up my slot because they were oversubscribed, and I ended up getting a message about 4:30 saying, "You're playing tonight."
Oh.
So I hadn't prepared anything. So I literally had sort of 20 minutes to put something together. I did forget to record half of it, but anyway, there's going to be recording done off the desk at some point in the future. So it was a good night, actually. It was a really good night. We had somebody called, I think they're from York, but they're Firebox and the Doctor, and the Doctor did clog dancing with electronics, and it was honestly, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Crazy Dutchman.
So, no, it's a guy called Andy and his wife called Linda, and they were just wonderful. So,
fantastic.
you just look out for them at other E-Moms.
Awesome.
The only other thing I've done this week is yesterday was Bandcamp Friday, so I decided to revamp the Sinners Music Bandcamp because it was always known as Sinners Music Publishing.bandcamp. Changed the URL. It's now Sinners Music UK, and I've put a load more acts and stuff that we on there, and there's all sorts of stuff on there. So go and check it out, really. So yeah, that's my week. It was a good week.
So is it just Bandcamp, Sinners Music
Bandcamp, Sinners Music UK, www.sinnersmusicuk, all one, /Bandcamp, I think it is, or .bandcamp.
Bandcamp. Let's see if that works. Yes, it does.
Yay! Fantastic. Oh, thank you.
There it is, in all of its glory. So go check it out, people. Fantastic.
So it's not just me. There's lots of people up there.
Yeah, I can see it. It's nice.
I mean, I've been really lazy over the last couple of years. I haven't updated it that much, and I thought it really was about time that we actually started sort of promoting some of the people out.
musicuk.bandcamp.com. I just posted it in the chat as well. Beautiful. Okay, heading down. I think we'll go to Chris. Big hello to you, Chris.
Oh, g'day. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Been a big week for synths, hasn't it? It's also been a pretty big week for me because, well, first thing is the GP82 has passed QA. It's just so there. So there it is.
Your audio is a bit quiet, by the way, but we'll persevere.
Sorry,
I don't think it's that mic either, by the way.
I think it's your cam mic.
I think you got your webcam mic on, but don't worry about it. Just keep going. We'll persevere.
Yep, no worries. I'll keep on going. I'll just shout really loud. Yep. So there's that, which is past QA, and I've got to do more software for it. The LED is way too bright. It's blinding. So it's not the kind of problem you expect, but I'll take it. So yeah, I'm just stoked that it works.
Nothing a Sharpie can't fix.
Yeah, nothing. I can turn it down in software, fortunately. So it's okay. Yep, so there's that. Other than that, I've ordered my Mini Freak.
You did. You got your $50.
Well done.
Yeah, I did end up ordering the Mini Freak. I procrastinated over 24 hours, and when I woke up in the morning, I procrastinated a bit more, and I still felt the same way. I had another look at a video, had listened to it, and 10 minutes in, I went, right, that's it, I'm doing it. So, yeah, and Mini Freak is ordered now, so that'll be an addition to the studio.
Excellent.
Well, yeah.
Exciting. It's always nice when you're getting a new synth. So they're usually pretty quick. You should have it by next week, I reckon.
Yeah, I'll have it too soon because I won't be particularly ready for it. But I'll have to do some rearranging, which is not a bad problem to have.
Nice.
Yeah. No.
Congrats, mate. Congrats.
It's going to be good fun. Yeah.
New synth day. Nice. Awesome.
I'll fix my audio. Sorry, I'll fix my audio.
Okay, cool. Yep. I'm going to go across to Andy.
Andy, yeah.
Who's the secret guest that no one knew who it was? Here he is.
Yeah. How do you, everybody?
How are you, mate?
You doing?
Hi, Randy.
All right, how's it going?
Chris and Ian.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got his candy out. Watch out.
No. Who knows what's in that candy?
I've got a biscuit. Does that help?
Industrial waste, right? So, yeah, just woke up a little while ago. So I was trying to get up earlier, but it's been one of those weeks. I actually missed a couple shows this week. I follow like Nora Blankvey and some other guys, and I took naps. And I took too long of a nap, so I missed a bunch of shows this week because just too much shit going on. So happy to be here, though.
Hope it's all good, mate. I hope the SH1T is not too bad for you, whatever's happening. So
it's not bad, yeah. As far as I mean, it's just busy, but yeah, there's still that looming. Are we going to last long at work? Or are we not going to last long? You know, it's Silicon Valley magic. So it is what it is. So I'm not too bummed about that because you know. It's happened to so many people I know, and it's a prevalent thing here. So to get too upset about it is kind of silly because it's always been that way. So it's just high tech. So I'm not trying to bum anyone out. I'm not bummed out. It is what it is. So it's just keep on playing with synths and
that's it, mate.
Playing with microscope critters and anything else to keep me happy. So
yeah, just. Don't forget, people, that Andy actually has a YouTube channel, which is like all to do. Tell us about it, Andy, because you're better at telling.
Sure. Actually, I've been so busy I haven't even done it for a couple of weeks. But essentially, I do. I have two kinds of microscopes: compound and dissecting, or stereo microscope, as they call it. It's basically just combination of looking at critters and doing some sciencey stuff to explain, you know, the stuff I actually studied. I never studied. I did some music as a kid in elementary school, but all my music stuff is pretty much on my own. So what I got a degree in was molecular biology and some zoology and botany and stuff like that. So I'm actually using all my old knowledge and trying to keep up with some of the new stuff. Because not too long ago, they actually redid the kingdom system. It used to be a 5-kingdom system, and now they have a slightly different version of it, where the bacteria fall, where the fungi fall, where the mammals and so you know everyone falls. But so I just try to do a quick thing on like what I can find in local water. Like it's been raining a lot lately, so pond water samples, gutter water. Planter water from plants outside, go to the nature center, baylands and stuff and get some salt water out there and look at critters. I also look at like stuff in the fridge, food things, spices, fungi, growing on things. I did a really fun one on some blue cheese and fungi growing on some bell peppers that I had, and got some really good shots of
what's that new series on HBO at the moment where the human race has been overtaken by fungi.
Oh yeah, The Last of Us. So The Last of Us. It's a great concept, but the science of it is pretty weak. If you know. Fungi. Cordyceps is pretty nasty if you're an ant, you know, or if you're something that's not warm-blooded. But because actually some kind of so-called health freaks drink cordyceps tea. But anyways, yeah, it's an interesting story to watch because it's a clever take on a zombie kind of apocalypse. But it's not scientifically accurate, but it is fun to watch. So
yeah, I'm a massive fan.
I throw in some science nerdy stuff on the show, and I try not to overwhelm people with too much nerdy stuff, vocabulary and stuff. But I throw a little bit in there just because it's educational. But it's also exploratory.
And you drone
I have no idea what I'm going to find when I start the show. So
yeah, and you usually drone it up, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I put some weird. I don't have time to make 4 hours of drone music because it's pretty boring to make that kind of music. So I'll use a generator online. There are lots of free, cool music generators online. I know Manny recently did a bunch of cool drones. So I talked to him about using some stuff that he did that ran for hours as some background music at some point. But yeah, I have curated shows with actual text and some music that I've made, or short, to the point kind of things, and then these long form live. So they're all on the site. I don't take anything down. So if you guys want some background stuff to watch or music, whatever, you can just let it run for hours. The live shows.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
If you're ever wondering, the cheap way of doing a drone is just the forearm onto the keyboard. Just keep leaning.
Or the live lead through an effect.
Yeah. I just grab a cable and put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
All right. We've said a load of chatties. We've said a load of you guys. We should get stuck into segment time. Here we go. And look, so I've been playing around with Photoshop during the week. I wasn't bored, but I just thought this meme that I saw somewhere on Facebook or wherever it was, Twitter or whatever, needed amending. It needed amending because it, like, as if the two people would be saying this to each other, right? It's AI, so I've amended it. There we go. Hey. Who's leaving who here? Have a think about that, people. Right. Thanks, Ivan, for the original, by the way. Okay, moving right along. Now, this is going to be about a 9-part meme. Here we go. First is a demo recording of the Mona Lisa. Then we have the original LP. Then we have the CD version. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then we have the MP3 version. Love that. 128K. Beautiful stuff. Then we have the edit for the sampler.
I know that face.
Then we have it tangentized.
Ooh.
Then we have it remixed.
Yeah.
Then we have it dance mixed.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we have the cover version. That's great. That is fantastic. I like that one. It's a meme with nine little panels, and I thought I'd do it slowly like that so you guys could see it better. Right, next. This is the back of Kent's house, and they're just loading in the next CS80 for repair. I don't even have to put text on these memes. It's just they just sell themselves. Yeah. Kent's probably not even watching. Right, and there's also this. Help! I need money for Depeche Mode concert.
That's about right. The tickets are expensive.
Try and have a Depeche Mode concert in the Southern Hemisphere. That would be the next probably various point. I think that's it.
Into one.
I thought I put more in here. Hang on, wait. Buttons are freezing on me, so I need to double check if I put more in here. Okay, let's go to us. There's one more. I just think I might have forgotten to refresh it. And we'll go back. No, we'll go back. There we go. And then we go. As we know, I did mention to you guys that we'll be talking briefly about the 303 day. So yesterday was 303 day. Well, some of you, it may just have finished. I don't know. If you're living in Hawaii, it might still be going. I don't know. I really don't understand time zones. You can tell. But the good news is today is 403 day. Hey?
Peugeot.
Nothing wrong with a Peugeot 403. 1959. Ooh. Thank you very much. Big shout out to my grandfather who he's passed on a long time ago. But he was a massive 403 fan, by the way.
It's a great colour. Love the colour.
Mm. So I just want you guys to think. Next time you celebrate 303 day, the next day you got to jump in your 403 and pick up the chicks down on the Sunset Strip. There is a convertible version of it too. Yeah, exactly. Hand out the window, right? Anyway, favourite meme of the week, people?
Oh, it's got to be the Mona Lisa
for me. Yeah,
Mona Lisa. Yeah.
It's deep on so many levels.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
There's actually a restaurant called Mona Lisa in North Beach in San Francisco, and they have ones you can't even show on the stream. like nude Mona Lisas and all kinds of.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, having seen the real Mona Lisa, it's not a very big painting, and I was completely underwhelmed.
Oh, and most people say that. I've seen it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, when you get there, I mean, literally the Japanese tourists were pushing, because my boys were quite small at the time, pushing them out of the way to get to it, and it's all behind a load of glass. It's not, you know.
Well, that's the thing. You can't have too many people looking at it because it's so small. If you have crowds of people, it takes you ages to get to see it. And if you're standing way back, you can't see it. It's just like a postage, a postage stamp. Yeah. Chatties were saying something about Mona Lisa as well. I think that got the gong this week. Cool. Right. I thought it might, but you know, who knows? Whatever I think, actually, it doesn't make any difference. It's your show, people. Okay, awesome. We have a stack of news to get through. So, okay, so what we're going to do with news, I thought we'll split it up into kind of, I don't know, a couple of sections that, well, you guys know who's been announcing a lot of stuff this week. So we kind of have to sort of speed through part of it, if that makes sense. We'll do our best, but I'm more than happy to welcome anyone who wants to discuss any of these aspects individually. But let's roll the stinger and see what happens. And of course, it never shows the right one at the start because it's just stupid.
Bingo. Drink.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so we will start off with this announcement too, which I think is probably worth starting off with. It's the Korg Odyssey full-size kit. Now, this is not a new concept from Korg. The Odyssey definitely isn't a new concept from Korg. But you can see there's all the bits that you get. Don't lose any, especially those washers and things up the top right-hand corner there. You don't want to lose any of those. Oh, let me tell you, you don't want to be getting the vacuum cleaner out if you've lost one, because that you know that the vacuum cleaner is going to suck one of those little buggers up, and then it will be gone forever in the dust pile. But anyway, you're kind of going from the kit to the thing on the top right hand corner. That's the goal. Hopefully, if you've built it. Now, let me sort of put a question mark on this, guys. This is not really a kit. This is just like what your kids muck around with. It's not a proper kit, but there is a good thing. If you are into collector's edition, and you do buy this kit, that you actually get a individual plaque that is actually mounted on the inside of the case of the chassis, which is kind of a nice touch, I thought. By the way,
keeps the dust off.
You probably want to have a nice touch, considering I'm about to tell you how much this thing is. It is $1,899 US to buy a kit of a analog mono synth. I need to get you guys in on this. Opinions about that before we go any further. Right.
Can I start?
You can.
Because being the resident Korg dealer, they didn't forewarn me about this, which is just as well. I just think, what the hell are they playing at, really? If I'm honest. I mean, you could buy the sort of mini key version for, it was £650 new, and you can get them on eBay now for about £400. I don't know what they're playing at. I mean, they'll probably will sell out to the wrong people to some extent. There'll be, because the collector market will probably buy it. It would be cheaper than buying an original, Odyssey. And the Odyssey's a great synth. We sold quite a few of them when we had the shop. I loved it. But I just think the price is daft, really, if I'm honest.
It is, yeah.
But it was interesting that Korg didn't. I normally get sort of emails pre-warning me this sort of stuff. Now I am obviously off their Christmas card list, which is fine. I can cope with that. It won't affect my business at all, But but no, I've said it before. Actually, I think Korg have lost their way to some extent at the moment.
Well, they don't have what's his name, Takahashi,
No.
anymore, do they? So But have a look at this. This is part of the video, so that just goes to show you the difference in size between the 80% version and the full size. Just if you guys, I've got the one on the left, and there's nothing wrong with the keys on it.
No, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
It's actually a really good sounding synth. I think there might be a slight engineering difference between the one that they're releasing now, with some overdrive or feedback engine in it or something like that. I can't remember for sure. But hey, look, some people will want that little plaque on there. They'll just be like hitting that checkout button right now. And you know, some people love building those things too. Anyone else want to quickly comment on the Korg thing before we go ahead? Aaron?
I'd pay for it, build it, and it wouldn't work because I'd miss something whilst building it. So if they'd have, I don't know, yeah, a bit like Ian says, really. If it had been something slightly different, or they'd made some major change that you're not going to be able to get by buying any other, it'd be that, I don't know, £1,800 to build it myself and it not work. Yeah, I'm just with Ian on that one. I can't really say much more. I'll let you carry on. If it had been something different, so I did something that's unique to that DIY kit that you can't get anywhere else. Even then, the price is still expensive. But you have to give them a bit of a waiver on that. But nah, it's yeah.
I mean, when they did the Korg 700 FS, the 700S revamp, that is different. I mean, there's presets, there's all sorts of things that were new to it. Granted, the build quality wasn't as good as the original, but you can't expect that. But there's nothing really. My understanding is there's nothing exceptional about this apart from the price.
Yeah. I need to get my little chat thing happening. Hang on one sec, because I need to highlight people's chat. Where's my little chat thing going? There it is. And yeah, let's do that, and let's do that. Brett Lemming says, why Odyssey when go the MS-20 as a kit? Not a bad
the MS-20
not a bad idea.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same. But I think, personally, if you ever want to say the word kit, it's a bit like the Workstat, right? They're not really kits. They're just a bit of fun. It takes you literally 10, 15 minutes to put the stuff together. Kits are like what I'm going to show you a bit later in the news section. You'll see what a real kit looks like. That's what
it's like the NTS one. You just throw it together. So
yeah. But, hey, it's kind of almost like fail-proof kits, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, we'll go to the next. Buttons away. This is, of course, the other bit of news that came out during the week. Now, for those who are in the eurorack world, if you've got a mutable instruments Platts, you would have already had a firmware update that was non-open source. Let's make that one clear. It's kind of weird that they did their last firmware update non-open source, but I have a feeling I know why. So anyway, we were all sort of saying, okay, well, Behringer Brains is the kind of the clone of the mutable instruments Platts. It's got a little bit more, mind you. It's not exactly a clone because they added some extra algorithms. It did come out originally without it being 96K. They made it 96K now. Now the new one adds quite a lot. So let's quickly just give you guys a little run through. You're getting 5 new synth engines. You're getting a DX7. They're calling it the BX7. It's an FM synth that includes 32 classic FM synth patches. When I say classic, you'll recognize them. And it sounds exactly the same as a DX7 because you can actually load the DX7 patches onto this through the Synth Drive app. Which we may have time to have a look at that later. Anyway, it's got a bass line, which is the TD3 sampled type sound. It has a wave generator, which is a heap of waveforms, which I don't want to go into, like bit crushes, oversample rates, and things like that. It's got a Vox, which is a vocal morphing sound engine with formant shift, resonance, and vowel blends. It has an audio scope, so that the little what do you call it, OLED display on this thing. All right, so you guys can see one live here. It's a little OLED display that's playing the oscilloscope there. You can actually plug external audio into it via the volts per octave input, switching it to this mode, and you can actually use Brains as a little oscilloscope, we'll call it loosely. We'll loosely call it that. I have a little video lined up. It is a Behringer video. I think this is a pretty decent product personally, so they've done a good job with this. Let's kind of have a look at that.
So, Brains just became way more clever. Introducing Brains Reloaded. Brains Reloaded is a firmware update that adds 5 new engines to the Behringer Brains, all of which have been developed entirely in-house and work in addition to the 20 you get out of the box. So let's start with engine 1, or as we like to call it, BX7.
Nice.
BX7 is an FM synth engine giving you 32 classic FM patches, all of which are fully exchangeable and compatible with native DX7 patches. You can simply upload them using the Synth Tribe application.
Quickly, just anyone is wondering what the hell that module is on the top right hand corner, it's called the Space FX. It's not available yet, but they did announce it, so we can ask questions about that later.
Our timbre control now controls tremolo. Harmonics select through the patches.
Go Kenny.
Yeah.
Morph controls vibrato.
It's pretty cool.
All the synth engines, frequency still continues to control the pitch. Next up is the bassline synth engine, and this is a pretty special one as it gives you the iconic TD3 sound in a eurorack format.
Digital, people. I mean, really, that's not actually a TB303 because they don't come with distortion, overdrive, and stuff out of the box. Anyway, you guys get the idea. You guys can watch the rest of that video when you guys want to. But in terms of it being a Eurorack module, that's actually pretty cool. It's got all the stuff that it's already got. So all the plates, or all the Behringer Brains extra drum sounds as well, and then you've got the extra 5 engines plus the oscilloscope that you can use. Thoughts, ideas, anything? Darren.
It's a revamped Brains. It's good. It's cheap. It's yeah. I think we're probably going to show some more Behringer stuff, so I'll probably hold back on anything I've got to say. But yeah, it's a great little module. I mean, I've got Platts, but I do like the idea with the little OLED and the easy way of putting the firmware in with USB and everything. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up getting it at some point with it being a cheap or cheaper end of modules, because if you go in anything else, the modules are expensive. So Behringer stuff's cheap, and it sounds good, and it is. It is what it is. That's all I can really say.
Did you update your Platts, stuff. Darren? Did you update your Platts? Because there was that firmware update that came out in December.
No, I've not updated the plats. No. No, it's still sat there.
Okay.
Like most of my
because you do get the
moment.
FM synth if you update it with plats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the visuals on it as well, don't forget. You see, that's what catches my eye. That's why I buy everything that flashes lights. I mean, that's why I've got the Polygogo and everything. Can't play it or use it, but it just looks good.
Okay. All right, Chris has got his hand up.
Just 2 quick questions. How much does it retail for?
Who's quick on their computer? I can't remember.
Sorry, I shouldn't ask questions I can easily Google.
Yeah, you can keep asking questions.
The next question is, how many notes of polyphony is that FM oscillator?
265 Australian, by the way, for you, Chris.
Oh, cool.
Yep, pretty cheap.
It's not bad. actually.
How many?
It's pretty cheap, yeah.
How many
Notes
notes
of polyphony.
It's
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's mono.
Yeah, because they were kind of layering it up there. I think it was just overdubbing then, a bit tricky.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's mono because it has only one CV pitch volt per octave
Of course.
input.
Yeah, it's got no way of doing chords, of course.
It doesn't
Yeah,
have a
okay.
MIDI input. Yeah,
So it's pretty much what you expect then.
Yeah.
but
It's
there,
£115 UK.
yeah, but there are chord algorithms in there, Chris. So you can
there are oscillators.
Yeah.
Like
and
the ones in the
super
mini
saws
freak,
and things like that.
Yeah, you have
So,
MIDI in on it, right? So
no MIDI in. Yeah,
isn't there? Isn't there MIDI in?
no MIDI in.
I thought there
It's
was.
CV. It's CV controlled only, unless they've upgraded the firmware and that USB input takes MIDI, which I haven't read. So someone in chat could tell me if that's the case.
That's why I
but
thought that
doubt
was
it.
there. It was for MIDI.
No,
Yeah,
it's just for firmware updates. Yeah, I doubt it very much.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Anyone else want to make a
No, they're
quick
missing
comment?
the trick if they've not got it MIDI by that.
Look, what is it? 130
Yeah,
pounds, 150 pounds maybe, 265
115
Oz.
UK.
Yeah, it's pretty it's a no-brainer. Oh, God help us.
Makes me think, should I
The
start?
303
Eurorack?
sounds like that new MO they have.
Yeah, I know, but
The-
stop saying 303
kind of
sound like a distorted 303. It annoys me
MO.
because they don't.
A lot of people complain about that MO hacked one.
Oh yeah, because of the devilfish hack. Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't sound exactly like a devilfish, and some people never really like the devilfish. There's a whole thing online. People are like, can you even name an album using the devilfish? People are like arguing about how valid it is. Stuff like that.
Oh, look, you go onto forums, Andy, and there's people that will literally pull apart these synths and say, it has digital envelopes and the original had analog envelopes. There, see, it's not the same. And like people are literally like picking at these tiny, minute differences. And I mean, great. You know, go buy the original then. This is my point.
I've not
Go
been
buy
bothered. The last 4 tracks have all been acid tracks. Well, techno acid tracks. I've not bothered whether I've been using the TD3, the MB33, or even a plugin. I've not bothered. I've just it's just the sound in the track that makes it, whether it's a flipping original or not.
Yeah.
Isn't
And
the
you can tell
devilfish
me
guy
if
in
you go
Australia?
through listen to the last 4 tracks, you can try and tell me which ones I've used, because I've used a different 303 on 3 out of the 4 tracks.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, you could now use a Behringer Brains to do your 303 sounds, and no one will know. Anyway, that's it.
Well, they must have a way of doing chords with the DX7 patches, right? Because who wants to just do single note patches or single notes with DX7 sounds?
Well, that's the thing, you know, because they're, 8 voices, or 16 voices if you got the DX7 too. So, yeah, let's go that way. But if you just want that bass sound, I mean, the famous lately bass is in there, right? Sure. Everyone loves the lately bass. Or if you want a doorbell for your Eurorack, where's Robbie?
I'll say some bells.
Robbie's probably busy at the moment, so we shouldn't pick on him.
He's at Synth. He's not Synth, is he?
No, he's not at Synth.
He's moving.
He's moving,
busy
man.
packing his house up. Let's not pick on him.
So we can say what we like about DX7s and FM.
I could see him
I
dropping
think he'd be
something
happy.
heavy.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
torment.
It's just coming just to annoy us now.
He's never going to buy it. I don't think he's ever going to buy Eurorack, but I think he'd be happy to know that, you know, FM is, it's in Eurorack land. He'd be happy
He's
about
getting
that.
love.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's walking around now listening to this, but not actually watching it, he'll be going bananas.
He'll be watching it on the replay. Chatties are saying things like, what are they saying? Prices. Yeah, we did that. Yeah. I don't think you can really do, Brett saying 128 voice, 6 operator. I don't think you could ever do that in Eurorack land. Well, you probably could, but it would literally just take up your whole Eurorack case. Then there'd be nothing else in there. Yeah, and you might as well just buy a synth. Hello. Isn't that what they were for? Right. We should go on. We've done brains. Let's do the plethora of Behringer announcements. Right. So we have already announced the Behringer Edge. I don't know how long. I think it was a year ago. So we don't need to show what this sounds like. You guys can go check out our video or Behringer's video a year ago on this. If you really, really want to have a little bit of a reminder, this is it.
Is it still just the Moog ladder filter?
That's still got all of the computer generated stuff in it. I can't remember too much about the specs on this, but the news really that we're talking about here is that they're shipping these now out from their factory. Now, just before we get into all the rest, I should. So I've had a bit of a chat to some people on Wagoo was one of them, and thanks Wagoo for clearing this up as well. When Behringer announced this on their Facebook channel, they said that they're shipping it, and pre-orders have already been made. And I sort of went, what? How can you make a pre-order? The retailers haven't even loaded them on their databases yet. I don't get that. Like, I was getting sort of little bit of manikas in a twist about this. What they actually meant, according to some of the guys like Wagoo, is the manufacturers are selling to the big synth companies like Sweetwater and Thomann and Andertons and who knows who they're selling to in Australia, probably not even anyone. And those companies are doing the pre-orders, and that's what they meant by pre-order. So if you did read that and you're thinking, what? It's not fair. I didn't even get a chance to buy it. That's not you. That means those companies will probably order a shipload of those in, and maybe you can contact them and see if there's a waiting list, or if you may even be lucky enough to get one. So that's what they mean by that. So let's get back into it. These are the ones. Wait, where's it gone? Come back. Not that. That. So these are the things that Behringer have announced, and there's one that's a new announcement. So we're gonna go into the new announcement a little bit more. This is a new announcement. It's a Mark II of the MS-1. I kind of want to talk about this a little bit because I think it's, what would you call it, guys? It's a correction. They fixed something that they should have probably had fixed in the first place. Anyway, we'll talk about what that is in a sec. So you can, if you guys have bought an MS-1, in my case, I've got an MS-101. So that was even, we'll call that Mark 0. Yeah, they've put the proper VCF and VCO chips in this, and it's probably not exactly the original. I don't say it's Cool Audio's remade them or something. I'm not sure. They're not really telling us a lot, but they reckon that they sound better. Okay, cool. Next, Pro-800. For those who are really, really been chaffing at the bit for this thing to come out, it's now available. I should probably tell you guys the price of these things as we're going. So, where are we? I forget. No, I don't. I've got it here. The Edge is $219. This is US dollars. The MS-1 Mk II, sorry, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same as the MS-1 Mk I. The Pro-800 is $599. That's the MSRP US dollars. So it'll be less than that street price, and it'll be about $6 million in Australian dollars for us, Chris. Next is the Solina. We know about this. We've already announced this. Just reminding people, though, these things were announced a long time ago. So the Edge was a year ago. The MS-1 is a redo. The Pro-800 was, I don't know, a year ago, and then 2 months ago when they announced it again. The Solina was probably 6 months ago, and then probably 3 years ago before that. So, these things have been talked about for a while, but it's good news that they're shipping these things. Just to remind people too that Solina does ship with a small stone phaser clone in it, and you can put external audio through that. So even if you don't want a string machine, hey, you get and it's modeled after the 1978 version of the small stone, which is the good one. It's the one that Jean-Michel Jarre used. This is the new product. I've got a little video to show you about this. This is called the Toro. We have talked about this before, though. They leaked they were talking about making this probably about 2 years ago. This is modeled after the Moog Taurus, if you don't know. There's a specific model that's modeled after. And I think that is it. So let's before we go into any more, let's have a quick look at the Toro. What's with the logo?
Hey, Daniel with Behringer, introducing the all-new Toro.
See the logo? The logo is enjoying the ball.
It's a Randy bull, yeah.
First introduced back in 1975 and then remaining in production until 1981, the Taurus 1 delivered ground-shaking synth basses and was controlled by its unique organ-style pedals. In the years that followed came the Mark II and the Mark III, with the Mark I still remaining as everyone's favourite, with its massive sound having been used by legends such as Rush, Genesis, Dream Theater, and Yes, just to name a few. Almost half a century later, Toro now faithfully delivers the weight and the depth of that classic massive sound, all in a form factor that works within modern day setups, thanks to it being both desktop, rack mount, and fully eurorack compatible. And for those of you who want to go full Geddy Lee, of course you can hook this thing up to any third-party MIDI pedal board. So let's go through the specs, the features, and most importantly, its massive sound. Toro has dual VCOs.
All right, let's skip that. Let's see if we can get some sounds because...
and then bass.
All right, enough of that. Okay, so this is the first time we've heard the Behringer remake of the Taurus, the Toro. They have been talking about doing this for a long time, so here it is. What we'll do is we'll do any of those Behringer products that was announced. So any of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Behringer products that was announced. Even if you want to talk about Brains again, you can. That's 6, I guess. Pick any, pick a few, whatever. Who wants to go first?
I'm sort of, I don't know what to say. I'm like a 50-50 on the Behringer things, because it's like, are they just going to clone everything out there that they can, rather than making something completely unique to Behringer, which riles me a bit. But on the other hand, I do like when they do clone things like this that they can't get now all the ridiculous price, because I can't say I don't like them. I've got 2 TD3s, so and I do like this Toro. It looks and sounds quite good, but I'm just so like that on Behringer at the moment. It's just like they're just going to say, right, we're just going to clone everything known to man. I don't know. I can't diss him and I can't thumbs up, but I do like the Toro. I do like that. I do like, it'd be something. Some of the Behringer stuff would be on my sort of possible list, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'll go and get it. And obviously they're making it cheaper for a lot of the new people coming up who have never known these older synths or couldn't even afford these older synths. So to make him as a clone, I see that point, and I agree with that. It's just that just make something completely unique, or just Behringer. You know, I mean, everything just seems to be cloned at the moment. I mean, they'll even clone themselves at some point.
Darren, there are people that do want these. So that aside,
that's what I mean. That's why I'm 50-50, because I'm not dissing them for that, because I do agree, and I think, like I say, I bought the 2 TD3s, and like the Toro might even be on the list, and the Edge. I think Wagyu said the Edge is like a DFAM.
It is a DFAM.
With the out stuck in a daft place on the top, but it's just the fact that just do something unique.
It's different to the DFAM.
Just come up with a synth that's completely.
Yeah,
I know, but it's still cloning them, though, isn't it? Just
it is.
Come out with something like
it won't sound as good as the DFAM.
No, well, that's why it sits there. But yeah, that's my opinion anyway. I mean, it's just my opinion. I'm 50-50 on them. I like it, but I also it gets on my nerves sometimes when they just clone the world.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, next. Hands up, guys. Who's next?
I have to say, I thought the Toro didn't sound massive. I mean, I'd want to hear more from it, really.
Yeah, there wasn't enough
underwhelmed
demo.
by it.
Yeah.
Well, it was underwhelmed by what it sounded like. I am interested in the MS-1, if I'm honest, because that's a synth I've never owned. You know, the Solina you can leave for me. I was never. I mean, I've got the Arturia. If I want that sound, really, and I don't know about the Edge. Maybe I'd want to go and play with it a bit. You know, but yeah, the Toro left me a bit cold. But then again, you know, I don't. You know,
$199 they're saying for the Toro. US.
Okay. I think I'd rather put me $200 into something else.
Okay.
If I'm honest.
What about the fact that it doesn't have the pedal? I mean, really, that was what the Taurus was. It was a pedal synth, so when if you looked at Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all those guys, right? When Keith played it, or whoever played it, you know, those guys were performing on stage and they were busy with their fingers. Doing other stuff, and the whole point of the Taurus was that, hey, here's another synth that you can muck around with while you're busy with your hands, that you can use your feet. And so Behringer have said, what, we can put a MIDI pedal board thing into it. All right,
that's pretty dopey to say. You can get your own pedal board.
Yeah.
The pedal boards
are not cheap. I don't know if you looked at pedal boards. They're not that cheap.
Show me one.
Show
me one that does the same.
I've seen them around, but they're not that cheap.
No, they're not.
I mean, if they were selling it for $300 with a pedal board, then it's a whole different beast, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of half a.
I wouldn't get a Toro because I already have a Moog Rogue, which is basically the same architecture. So and I would be pretty rubbish with my feet anyway. So
if you do have a Moog, even if you had a sub fatty or a sub 30 subsequent 37, you're going to be able to get similar sounds out of it. It's not going to be.
I was just going to say
exact. It's not.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that that's what the vibes I got when I listened to the Toro demo. I just closed my eyes and I was going, everything I'm here then is very similar to the kind of sounds I can get out of my sub fatty. So that's why I'm not really interested in the Toro. But it was interesting that they replicated that kind of sound, which is interesting. I was interested in the Pro-800, but after hearing the retail price, I'm a little bit shocked.
Yeah, it is actually. It is an 8 voice.
I thought it was going to be less than that.
Yeah.
I thought things change, I guess. I was originally, I think I was one of the first persons who fell in love with the demo of the Solina clone. But since then, I've got the plugin, the Waldorf Strikefoot plugin.
Oh, isn't that a nice plugin?
And I kind of, and when I got that, I thought, I think I'm covered now. I've that particular vibe and sort of feeling, I think I've covered with, and it's a bit more flexible.
Yeah,
it's quite a lot more flexible actually. So I thought, I probably wouldn't put that high on the list. The MS-1, I'm with Ian. I've never owned one. But I used to love that Towel one, the Towel bass line or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I used to have that, Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
really, really fond memories of that, and it very much is that kind of. It's such an easy entry to synthesis, where just everything just sort of makes sense. I get that. So yeah, and I think the first Behringer clone I heard was the original MS-1 at which I heard on a video at one of the trade shows. And that was the first time it was around the time when I was starting to get back into synths. So that was one of the things I think, that sounds like it would be really nice, but I wasn't ready at that stage. So the MS-1, yeah, I might listen to that again. Pro-800, I'm bummed, but
don't be bummed.
No,
Yeah.
don't be bummed.
They always said it was going to be sub 600 when they first announced it, and it's like $1. It is sub 600, but they never said it was going to be like 300 or anything. They always said it was going to be sub 600. So I always knew.
They just said it was going to be affordable.
Yeah,
that was basically their line.
If you look
affordable.
if you look at their Deep Mind, what's the Deep Mind selling for, guys? Be quick on the keyboard. Deep Mind 6, right? Deep Mind 12.
6,
Even if you look at the desktop version, how much is a Deep Mind 6?
That's about $659.
There you go.
Version, Deep Mind
right, so that's a 6 voice.
Yeah, it's comparable,
right?
Isn't it?
And the Deep Mind 12 is what, probably another 150 on that, something like that. So that's why they're pricing it at $599, because they don't want to. They don't want
undercut their own market.
Yeah, they don't want to cut their own product line. But at the same time, it's kind of the Pro-800 is kind of like. I'm going to get killed for saying this. It's kind of like a Prophet 5, kinda, right? But it's not. And it's kind of like some of the other sequential stuff, but it's kind of not. So if someone wanted to get into that sequential sound, but they just don't want to pay the sequential price, because that's pretty insane difference in price. That's where you've got to look at it. So how much in Australia is a Prophet 5 desktop? You're looking at $4,000 to $5,000 in Australian dollars, right? And then that is probably going to be around about the $1,000 mark in Australia when that hits the shelves. So that's what you've got to look at. It's not necessarily individually, would I afford that? Is it worth that sort of coin? It's probably more about where that sits, whether it's competitors. And by the way, if you're going to go and get the Pro-800 and think that you've solved your Prophet 5 problem, sorry, you're not going to. There's going to be sounds that you will never get on that Prophet 5s can do. But you'll do sounds that Prophet 5s can do on it. You'll do courtesy sort of sounds on it.
Just like nearly every synth, you can do a little bit of something else.
Yeah.
Usually nails. Every synth nails at least one other synth sounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was considering getting that Solina. I actually got to play a real Solina at Synthplex.
Yeah.
Many months ago, and it was pretty fun to play a real one for once. It's Michael Boddicher's Solina, but then I got that StrikeFet module in January. Yeah, and like other people have said, it's a proper module. It's got some great stuff, and plus it's like bitimbral. I found out by accident. I was playing around with the MIDI settings. I go, I'm getting 2 sounds out of it. So that's kind of cool. But so it's a nice. I mean, the Solina, it kind of looks. I don't know the module. I know there's not a lot of controls on that in general, but the layout, it looks kind of weird. I think on the Solina module.
Sparse.
Looks kind of cheap almost.
What's the word?
Yeah.
Sparse. Yeah.
But they should have made the front. They should have made the cover transparent.
There's a bit of a. That's actually pretty interesting to look at it like this, because there's the Behringer monopoly. What is that? A 2, 3, 4 octave keyboard, and you can see it's quite small. That Solina. So even as sparse as those buttons are, the sliders down the bottom take up all the sort of the horizontal room on it, if that makes sense, because they go left to right. I don't know. I kind of for me, I think that's probably going to be the first one I'll get. Even though, Chris, I've got the StrikeFet and I've got the StrikeFet VST, I will still get that. I've also got the VP330 that Behringer made, which is called the VC340 or something. It never really delivered as nice a string sound as the ARP Solina was always the nicest sound anyway.
Even back in the days when you had to use libraries, romplers and stuff like that, I always gravitated immediately to the Solina sounds over the other ones.
Yeah.
Just something
What
about
about
that
the
sound
boutique
I really
one?
loved. Oh, no.
But as Wagyu says correctly in chat, and once again he's the man of many bits of knowledge, the Solina and the Strike Fet aren't similar. And that is correct, because the Strike Fet is modelled after the Logan more. The Logan sound is probably what the Strike Fet was more going for. By the way, though, to give the Strike Fet, you guys have probably heard me say this before, but to give it a pat on the back, it is actually one of the only software emulations that have done a proper algorithm that is divide down. So it's not just resampling sounds like some of the other string VSTs out there. It is properly divide down algorithm. So when you could literally do what I said before with it, the drone, you could literally lean on that keyboard and it would play every single note. If you had a massive 88 key, MIDI controller, put both arms on at the same time, it will play every single note, and it will do it properly. So, and yeah, from a point of view of software emulations, even the hardware version of the software are the same, right? It doesn't make any difference, but they actually sound really, really good. So Waldorf have done a fantastic job of that. This Solina is.
You can tell they aren't the same units. They do sound different, but if you just a string synth for some project,
it's a go-to. Yeah,
you don't need every single one out there, right?
No.
So
no. But don't forget though, the Solina is analog, so you will get that kind of quirkiness of the analog sound, which I found with the Behringer VC340. It does have a bit of quirkiness about it because it's the Roland string sound, right? The RS, what do they call it? Someone on chat will tell me. The VP330 was based on some other Roland thing that they had at the time that was a string machine, RS9 or something. Someone will correct me. Anyway, that sound is Roland's string sound. It's different to Solina, which is different to Logan, which is different to Eminent. Do you know what I mean? They're all different. So it depends on.
I have the Yamaha string synths. Those are pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So
they made some nice ones. Yeah, absolutely. In the organ, they're
big.
organ sort of day.
Awfully big, but
yeah. What have you got?
I've always got the letters on that one. It's there's I think the 10, the 20, the 30. I think I have the 20. I forgot the letters in the front on the string synth because I never used the damn thing. But it was such a great deal, I had to pick it up.
It's what you always say.
Exactly.
I never use it, but it's a great deal.
That used thing down the street. It's my crack. So
he takes his Glock with him every time he goes to buying something. What a great deal, guys.
Well, that's the problem with having an SUV. I can always pick up whatever I want. So I always have the
black
space
SUV with tinted windows.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
It's not the Lamborghini though, like that fictitious guy that we keep talking about.
Oh no.
Yeah. Chatties. I got to keep an eye on the chatties because I always say stuff and the chatties always say things back, and sometimes they get angry because they don't actually mention what they say. So, Pro-800 would be good, given it's got the Gleegly on board. That is correct. It does have the Gleegly mod included in it. So that's another thing, Chris, to because the Pro-8, if you bought that, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't have the Gleegly, and that's really fixing a lot of the problems that it originally had.
Yeah.
3 octaves is a bit of a letdown, though, if it's just 3 octaves. Kind of want to know more about that now. That would really be so you're saying that the Pro-800 is only 3 octaves? I didn't know that. That would really be bad. The STVC, yes, that was the other Waldorf string machine, but it's also digital as well. It's pretty much a Strike Fet, but with a few extras. So I don't think that would be anything you'd sort of go and... Oh, monopoly is 3 octaves.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. Okay, that's fine. Whew. Jeez, we dodged a bullet there, didn't we, hey? All right. Now, Andy, I got a massive big list of price watch stuff from you, and I'm kind of scratching my head as to how to handle this.
Yeah, sorry, there's a lot in there. So
Yeah.
I was having fun.
I know you were. And I do appreciate it, by the way. So, what do you think the best way to do it? Should we just load a couple and then, I don't know, go from there? What should we do? I mean, there's one, two, three, it's probably 20 in here, mate. Do you want to?
A lot of crazy shit. You know?
Do you want me? Okay, so just pick. Do you remember what they are?
No, it was last week, so
Okay. Shall
I sent them to you just before last week's show.
All right, I'm going to pick a few random ones, okay?
Yeah.
And then you can talk about it. But before we do, we should roll the stinger. And is there any price watch sitting in the system? Yeah, I need to get rid of these. Oh, actually, no, there's one sitting in here, I think, which we can do, which is not yours, Andy. That's okay. We're allowed to do others. One sec. Plan the show better, Ranz. God, you're shit.
Yeah, come on.
See how the sausage is
Get it
made.
together,
This is
man.
good.
There we go. All right. We'll start with this one because I thought it was kind of relative to what we were talking about last week when we were talking about the Jupiter, the JT2 from Behringer. They announced that JT2, the single-voiced, version of the Jupiter 8. And one of the questions I had during the week was, how much is a Jupiter 8 worth now? Well, this is Australian dollars, so halve it for pounds and God knows somewhere in the middle for US. 30,000 pounds, or let's say 40,000 US for a Jupiter 8 is not uncommon to see now on, this is Reverb, $1,000 shipping. I don't know about that. It definitely doesn't cost $1,000 in shipping.
Bargain.
That would probably
Bargain
be insurance, I'd say, if that's the case. That would probably be an insurance element in that. Guys, what do you think about this? Like, would you buy a Jupiter if you knew that's the sort of coin that you were going to spend? It's crazy, isn't it?
No, absolutely not.
Not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much.
Too much?
Well, I don't know. I think because if I had the money to buy a synth like that, then I'd have that much money. I wouldn't be bothered about it. I could just buy what I wanted.
That's true,
Surely.
Darren. That is true. The other thing is that people don't remember, people remember, I need to remember that they need to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Old synths, old components, it's a route to Kent Spong's door, isn't it, all the time?
Yeah.
So you guys are lucky to have Ken
Drink-
Spong nearby.
drink
I have a
lots
bunch of rip-off guys
Yeah.
over here. So
We've had a few of these before.
3 months at home.
I might do this one next, actually. I'm just looking through your list, Andy, because there's a heap, and I'm just thinking, oh yeah, this one. Maybe do this one.
some odd ones in there, yeah.
All right, let's do this one.
Some I've never seen before. They're pretty odd.
We've done a few of these before, the SP series of the EMU samplers, and I'm definitely sure we've done a 1200. I mean, that's the most common. That's that's what the Isla Instruments one was modeled after, but nearly 20 grand now in US dollars for a sampler. They're starting to get a bit silly now, I think, in price.
Well, this is the reissue too. This is not the legacy.
This is not the original, yeah. So this one was made probably in the last 5 or 6 years, right?
Yeah, so it's already like crazy money.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to find like a really nasty sort of price one in here. Yeah, this will do. This will do. The next one is the Buchla Thunder.
Wow, 30 grand.
They're rare. Yeah, I've seen only one in person.
They are around, but they're not like, they're not plentiful. That's for sure.
I have the overlay from my touchpad, the little now defunct touchpad from that company that I'm drawing a blank on the damn name.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
This thing is
Morph.
basically just a controller, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got that.
So.
I mean, it's. I can't remember if this one's pressure or contact like the other metal ones. This one might actually be a proper pressure one. Whereas the other ones are how much skin is touching the metal.
Yeah.
So
Susan Ciani's got one because when she came to York and we were all allowed to go up and see her setup, which was brilliant of her, really. She was using one then. That's pre-pandemic. So,
wow.
You know.
Yeah. That one's definitely interesting, and also the Matrix 12. I think we've had one of these before. Legend like a CS80? I don't think so.
not great.
Nice bit of advertising there. I think that's why you picked it. But the $30,000 price
It's
tag?
funny, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Checked and cleaned.
Yeah, that's insane. Where's this guy? I can't see. Germany.
Freak. Yeah.
Synth Freak. Synth Addict and meet Synth Freak.
Yeah.
Sometimes the notes at the bottom are funny. I can't remember on this one, but I did clip some of the bottom notes because they're kind of telling as well.
Yeah. Oh, Reverb's fantastic. You should have seen some of
He's
the funny
uploaded a
things I
video
wrote in my listings. It was good fun writing stuff in listings on Reverb. I had one guy the other day who, because I've got the Native Instruments Machine Studio up on Reverb at the moment, and I originally put it up there, and I said, this is what I originally did, and I quickly decided, oh, that's actually not a good idea. So I originally put it up there. They're about $1,000 Australian to buy new with the Native Instruments Machine 2 software in it, and you get a bundle of stuff as well. Now, I was going to sell it for like half of that, basically, and do the old license transfer that you can do with Native Instruments. But then I thought, no, someone is going to scam me if I do that, because this is the world out here, right? So then I thought, no, I'll just discount it. So I discounted it a further 50%, and I removed all reference to that you're going to get the software, so it's just the controller only. And lo and behold, I knew it would happen, right? I said to myself, I bet you there's going to be some clout out there who will try their luck when they buy this, right? So as soon as this guy puts this offer through, because he didn't want to go with the just the price I was setting, even though it was dirt cheap, he tries to discount the pants out of me. So I replied back and I said to him, mate, this is a controller only, just letting you know that there is no software. And the moment that I'm like typing the message, like I'm seriously typing the message, bing, comes in this message, another one from him saying, oh, it's really easy to transfer the software. Here's the link. I know about this, you dickhead, and you're just being a complete and utter naff if you think I'm going to sell it for that price. So this is Reverb for you people. Yeah. And lo and behold, guess what? He didn't buy it. I wonder why. But yeah, you got to be careful out there because, who knows. What else? One more. We'll do one more because this is an NPC. $7,000. I should have held on to my MPC 500. No, what did I have? An NPC? No, I had one MPC 1000. These are a little bit more limited edition though.
That internal zip drive will get you every time.
These Almonds guys are rigid id sellers. I've talked about these guys before. So they will just literally sit on that price until it goes. They'll leave it up there for months and months and months and months. Budge. Yep. And you can send them offers and they'll just go, nah, sorry. Yeah, we won't take your offer. But 7,000 US, I think is getting I think that's a bit stupid. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to chat. QRDNK has mentioned something about the Cyber 6 that was on. Yeah, we need to talk about that because that guy, I think he's in Switzerland. I think he's in your neck of the woods, isn't he, Wigoo? The Quasi-Media that we showed last week. It's discounted from 200k down to 23k.
Oh, that's much more reasonable.
He's also got a he's got a. I think I actually downloaded it, didn't I? Yeah. I did. We can show these. Robbie was talking about it. Do you remember when he was on the show? He was saying that the guy's trying to sell a
Fairlight.
A Fairlight, and there's something else. So let's see if we can.
Yeah, those two.
See if we can get these in. Sorry. Find the picture. Fairlight, there's his Fairlight listing. Sorry, I took it with my phone. So if you're wondering, it's US dollars, 85,000 US dollars or 80,000 chuffs. We're good. Go for it, mate. He likes dealing with chuffs. Yeah. Because it's from the Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah, right.
Chris Lowe farted on it? I don't know.
Neil's, some of the files are named Neil. Neil Tennant.
Neil Tennant again.
Yeah. Neil Tennant sneeze.
That old damn old codger comes again. Yeah.
And this is the other one that he's selling as well. This is not so much, but it's still pretty pricey. 47,000 for the Voyetra 8, the full system. It is the wow. It's got the 2 modules up there. That is actually quite a bit of kit, though. That's probably a bit better value than the Fairlight, but the Fairlight obviously has more of a name, right? But who was it? Who were those guys that used it? I think it was New Order, didn't they? They used the Voyetra quite profusely in the sort of mid-80s when they sort of
Suzantiani did a lot on some of her albums.
They got into their sort of more of a disco sort of style of music. They got I think when Peter Hook started hating them because Peter Hook likes to play his, you know, his bass guitar and rock it out, and then all of a sudden they got into this sort of disco sort of, you know, which is not, it's, you know, I like some of the New Order stuff that they were doing that was electronic. I thought it was cool. But yeah, Voyetras and stuff like that. Wow. 40 grand, eh? Yes. And chatties.
It's like the world of speedboats and luxury yachts.
Well, like I said, you know, a few weeks ago, I never thought this segment would be popular. I thought I was the only idiot that used to sort of get off on reading about people finding, hey, look at this guy selling this for this. I used to think I was the only idiot but lo and behold, we're all suckers to that. I think it's good.
You've created a spectator sport, Rance.
I think it is, because like we all have some gear that we have to flog at some stage, right? And you know, let's be honest, we spent a lot of our hard-earned money to buy that gear, and we looked after it. We kept the box in the cupboard, and you know, we did the right thing. The manual's still there. We dusted it off. We
kept the gear in the cupboard,
and we don't want to be lowballed. That's the God's honest truth. That's the truth. I mean, who here wants to be lowballed, right? None of us. So, yeah, I literally, as the show started today, I literally sold my last Mogafoga pedal. So, wipe the tear by. But yeah, they have to leave. Elvis has left the building. I was happy, you know. So
getting closer to that Matrix Brute.
Yes, yeah. Congratulations to Manny, by the way, who's got himself a Noir edition of the Matrix Brute. If he's still in chat, he's announcing that. And then like, stop buying all the synths, Manny. Leave some for us. Yeah.
He needs to have one of everything, though. Surely.
I can't remember the other thing he got. It was not quite a synth. It was something else, but it was pricey as well. I thought it was, I think it was a Polybrute, actually. Polybrute Noir, not the Matrix Brute. The Matrix is not what I want too. It's the Poly that I want. Someone has to, says Manny. I know, mate. You do it. You buy all the synths. You go. I can't afford it at the moment anyway, so it might as well be in your place. At least it's getting looked after. It's getting loved and used and stuff. Yeah. Oh, and David, sorry, I just quickly cut that off when I was looking. David said he sold half of his Mogafogas, and he doesn't miss them. They are great pedals, and I have the same opinion. I don't miss mine. I thought I would miss them. I don't. I don't miss them at all, which is weird. What used to absolutely peeve me off about them was that you would sit there and plug them in, because you don't always have them out, because they take up a lot of space. They're massive pedals, right? So you plug them in, and then you realise, there's the opposite voltage. These, for some reason, right? So then you like fumbling around trying to swap the voltage over so that it's different polarity, and anyway, it's just a little annoyance, but yeah. The The slow sweep on the phaser.
Do you use
was
the software
nice.
ones that much?
I do. I've been writing some music for my next album, and I've been using the software. I don't know if it's going to end up in the album, but I've been using them to test sounds out to see how they behave with the Mogafoga VSTs, and I'm actually
You like
really,
the sound,
pretty
you just
impressed.
don't like the fiddly pedals, basically.
Yeah. So you don't, there's certain artifacts that you don't get with the phaser as a software pedal versus a hardware pedal. So I'm definitely going to miss that. But as someone said in chat, there's going to be Behringer versions probably in about 5 years' time when they decide to make it. After they finish their court battles with each other. I'm just kidding.
Well, they have court battles within themselves now, aren't they? Behringer are suing themselves for cloning their own.
I mean, there was the famous Pop Will Eat Itself, and now there's the famous music company. Behringer will clone themselves.
I hope they make iOS versions so you can do multi-touch on the knobs and stuff.
Well, the thing is
nice.
with the Mogafoga pedals, you can set up MIDI mapping on them as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do inside the actual software itself. But then on top of it, with your DAW, you can MIDI map any of the knobs and things like that in there. So you could have like if you're using Ableton, you can have an Ableton LFO running something else instead of having because you might want to use the LFO for something else that's been built to it. So that sort of stuff's really cool, fun to play with, by the way. And it kind of feels a bit Euroracky. It kind of feels a bit like a Eurorack. Darren, you're sitting there thinking, I just rubbished Behringer all night now, and I'm now thinking I might buy that Pro-800.
No, because I didn't rubbish Behringer. I was on the fence about
He
Behringer.
was even-handed.
Like I said, I'll
see-
probably have half of Behringer's products in the studio because it's the only things I can afford at some point. So
Yeah,
I'll be
fair
sat
enough.
behind here with loads of Behringer stuff going, well, you see, I think I don't like about Behringer is...
He's got the ARP 2600, he's got the TD3, he's got two of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm waiting for the VCS 3.
So with those
If it ever turns up.
Behringers, one of the things that was mentioned in like I was talking about those forums that you go onto, and they were saying like the which one was it? So the MS-101, right? And then they brought out the MS-1, and then because they had a naming battle with lawyers, so then they brought out now they're bringing out the MS-1 Mk II.
Yeah.
I want to ask people, like, if you've bought the MS-1 and now Behringer have publicly said we have corrected this synth, it's now more like an SH-101 because we've put the actual proper VCF chip in there.
They did that with the 808 drum machines too, right? So
they did it with the RD8. Yeah, they did it with the RD8. Does that annoy you? Who here gets annoyed by that sort of stuff? Yeah, we're getting some head nods.
Pretty annoying.
So get it right.
So one thing that it could be is that they're just wanting to get the product out, right? And maybe they haven't quite got it right. And because everyone's screaming at Behringer, you guys announced 4 years ago that you were going to make a CS80. Where's the CS80? And they would be probably feeling a bit of pressure from the community about this stuff, that maybe they shouldn't announce stuff so early.
I won't say it's a problem, but all those, when the first edition or the MS-1 then,
Hello,
Mark
everybody.
1, as it will be,
Sorry.
when that came out and everyone was testing it against a real SH-101 saying, yeah, you can tell how bang on they are, and now they come out and say, well, actually, we've not quite. All right, so was it bang on then? So at least you can tell whether your hearing's working.
It's not massive though. This is for what people are saying. Like, you would really have to be quite anal about what you're listening, what you're hearing. People that really know the SH-101, they've used them, they've got some amazing sounds at it. They'll go to the Behringer and go, "What? This can't do that." And that's the tiny little micro corner that we're talking about here. But for 999.999% of other people, yeah, we don't care.
So I'm getting an MS-1.
Well, it's like the old Arturia TAE plugins. I mean, people bitched about those for years about they're not accurate, but if you never used one before, how would you know?
Yep.
They still sounded cool. They still made interesting sounds, and you could use them, but maybe not authentic. So you would only know that if you had actual experience with the real stuff. So.
Speaking of the MS-1, one of the things I thought was annoying was that and there's a reason for it, they said, which I accept. But there was such a cool little keyboard in there. Like, it's a cheap keyboard, but it was a cool little keyboard. It actually had aftertouch, although there was no aftertouch strip put underneath so there was no electronic aftertouch. But the actual keys themselves had the spring mechanism to be aftertouch. They could have had aftertouch. They could have had it all MIDI. The whole thing, the whole panel, all the sliders, everything. They could have had all of that. Responding to digital UI, but they didn't. And, even the pitch bend and the, what do you call it, Andy? All that part of the keyboard didn't send any of that other than just the note through MIDI, which I thought was a bit disappointing. And
that's weird they would do that, yeah.
Yeah. So the question I've got for Behringer, if they're watching, is you're bringing out this Mark II. Have you got now a MIDI implementation of some of those basic features of that keyboard? Or is it still, it's an analog synth, so we don't need to do that. It just needs to send note data. Well, what's the point of having MIDI in it? That's my question. Because the original SH-101 didn't have MIDI. So do it or don't do it. Or don't
why not bring a
it.
desktop version without the keyboard? The MC, was it the Oscillators?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one case where the boutique SH-101 is excellent. And
the
MIDI,
boutique,
you have polyphony, you have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you're right, Andy. It's brilliant because you've got the 4 voices, you've got patch memory, you've actually got things, MIDI implementation is not too bad. It's not like, it doesn't...
Yeah.
Obviously, those KM25 keybeds that come with the boutiques are pretty crappy.
Sure.
But, yeah. It does respond to aftertouch too via MIDI. So if you've got an aftertouch keyboard, you can actually program it to affect your sounds. The way they Roland implement velocity, I think, on a lot of their newer modern digital synths is amazing. And there's, I don't know, there's something that do you guys ever do this? When you get a Roland bit of gear, do you guys do this real fast tap on the key? And just to see if some of the patch programming has actually got proper velocity programming in it. Have you guys ever tried that? It's a cool thing to do. So some sounds on their their presets actually sound incredibly different if you really tap a fast velocity.
because the envelopes hadn't had time to decay, and if the attack portion is faster on
the transient,
then that's when you pick it up. You hear that like it goes twang or something when it normally doesn't go twang. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. And so if you don't program velocity into your MIDI implementation properly, you don't get cool things like that. You don't, like you said, you don't get envelope bypassing or whatever. And some of the things I liked about the Moog MIDI implementations on some of their patches is that you would, if you were holding down a note, being a monosynth, right? You were holding down a note and you kept that finger on that note. I know it's a monosynth, you're not supposed to put more than one finger on it, but you can, because you can use things like glide, hello, portamento. If you touch the other note, the envelope still hasn't completed its cycle, and so you might get a different sound as a result of doing those sort of things. If you've got proper MIDI implementation on your keybeds. So these are the things we're talking about.
Actually, even not for MIDI, because the 700 up here will do that, and it's great. And it's got and when I had the 700 FS for review, there's a thing where you hold down a key and you press, and it obviously goes backwards and forwards between the key, and that works really, really well as an effect as a sound.
Yeah,
the 700 FS wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
which was sort of slightly annoying.
Well, that's the thing. Like you want legato, glissando, portamento, slew, all that sort of stuff to work the way you would intend it to work, and then at the same time, you'd want it to be modified by the LFO you'd want it to be modified by the way the envelope is generating. So whether it's an attack or if it's a decay, depending on how that works, because the release is not part of it until you let go of the keys, right? So that doesn't fall into it. And the sustain is only the amplitude, right? So, yeah, I think some synths don't do it properly. And, you know, to hear that the 700 did it, it's no wonder that Mick loved that keyboard in Simple Minds, eh? He absolutely loved that keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, I'd already changed that for an S. You know, I would prefer to have the S, but,
yeah,
you know. There's somebody on eBay trying to sell one of those for £800, which is probably about the right sort of price, but he's not having any takers.
Is that a new one, though? Or is that an old one?
No, it's an old one. It's an original like mine. Mine's been modded. Mine's got a CV out, which was fitted to it at some point, which I haven't been able to get to work properly because you have to do some weird stuff. There's a guy who did a whole video on how to make it work properly, you know.
Is it also Hertz Volt on that one?
Yeah.
Hertz Volt, yeah. That's fun, though. The MS-20 stuff, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Because it works, you know, it works with your head differently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys take it for granted. I press a key, it does what it's supposed to do. But when you start patching stuff in, it works differently. It messes with your head differently, right?
I did. It was, it's great fun.
Mm.
And I didn't know what I was doing, so...
Yeah.
Well, I have a converter box, so I can just do whatever. So.
Oh yeah, and having eurorack is a good way of, you know, playing with both. You know.
Yeah.
So. And then it's the S trig and the V trig stuff that the Moogs had, and
Yes.
Yeah.
It hurt my head just reading how that worked. It's like, what? Say it again?
It's just voltage. 10 volts versus, what was it? Like a massive voltage versus, normal, 0 to 10. Yeah, it was all to do with voltage, basically.
Yeah, 0 to 10 versus +5, -5.
Yeah, and there was another one that was different as well, which had, you had to be careful because if you put it through your Eurorack, you could literally fry some, badly made modules, and there's plenty out there that are badly made that don't have proper, voltage protection in them and stuff. So yeah, be careful.
I already fried some with the red stripe problem, so
yeah. Well, that's not bad.
Well,
damn.
My module uses boxed headers, so you don't have that problem. Just saying.
Well, Deffer didn't though for a long time. The shrouded headers are the way to go, and Deffer only recently started putting that in their stuff.
Do that, people. Yeah. I was wanting to catch up with the chatties. So Ragu's saying in here, he's saying, won't it perhaps change the circuit to put pots and faders under digital control? So kinda, but not really, because now you've got electronic components that are analog in their nature, but they have digital wrappers around them that will not affect any of the analog nature. So you can have a potentiometer, for example, that is completely analog. The way it works, it sends out, its resistance across the value, but there's a digital wrapper around it that measures it's being turned, and that is completely independent. It's got separate pinouts and everything to the way the the analog connection works. And in that case, it shouldn't behave differently. And really, what you're trying to achieve with these things is you're trying to achieve a way to measure what you've set in a patch. Because if it's all analog, like the Arturia mini brutes and stuff like that were similar. Like once you set that synth, if you knocked a knob a little bit or something like that, you've changed your patch. And it's the same with Eurorack, and it's the same with the old the SH101. If you have some sort of digital thing around it which can remember what setting you had on your sliders, on your knobs, on your switches, whatever, that is kind of what we're after in the digital realm, so that we can save that, right? And then you implement this thing called a catch-up mechanism in the firmware so that when you turn the knob again, there's a little LED feedback to the visual for us as users that will say that's my original setting on the patch. So you can move your potentiometer and still making analog, voltages to the actual synth engine, but the digital thing saying, hey, this is where you were. This is where you were. It might not be, infinite, like analog is, but it's going to be pretty high resolution with all the processors that you got now. So
a bit better than a Polaroid picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've done that thing. Oh, yep, I'm all set. I've done tracks where I've put the mini brute and I've done photos with my phone, thinking, yep. And then I've gone back with the phone, gone, or even downloaded onto your computer screen, brought the mini brute out and gone, this doesn't sound the same. Hang on, I'm doing exactly like that picture. It doesn't sound the same. What the hell? So things like that happen.
Yeah.
Hence the sign of the show.
It's never the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always press record.
Exactly. Yeah. Press record. Yep. We forgot to do one thing in the news, and I don't know if you guys want to know about it or not, but it is an actual eurorack module. And we mentioned before about DIY kits. So let me just go to here. This might be interesting. We'll probably give this a bit more love later on, but I thought we'd mention this guy. Have you guys seen this before? It's by Division 6. It's actually a dual... It's not a new product, but they've just recently updated the firmware on it, which makes me kind of prick my ears a bit. You could buy this... Sorry, you could make this for as little as $6 US if you know how to do electronics. So Chris could... Chris is someone that could do this for $6 if he knows how to find all the gear, all the parts. Obviously, it's not going to cost him $6 by the time he orders it from Mauser or wherever he's getting it from.
I was going to say, it's like, well, okay.
I was going to say, if he's doing that, Chris, you can make us one.
But basically, Division 6 is saying you can have my product and it's only going to cost you $6 and you can source the rest of the gear yourself. Which I think...
I said panels and PCB.
Yeah. Which is
$6.
What we were talking about before about DIY. Remember, we're looking at the Korg Odyssey, right? This is the true DIY. So, what I'll do first is we'll talk about the DIY side because that's kind of where I was going with this a bit more. And we'll talk about the actual module itself in a sec because people are interested in that too. So if we go to here, his video that's up. I'm not going to play it because I'll get copyright striked, but he actually builds this thing for you. And this is a true DIY. This is what you would be doing, Chris, if you bought the $6 part and sourced all the gear yourself.
Indeed, I've done videos like this as well.
Yeah, same. And it's fun. It's good fun to do it. And some people absolutely can't stand it. I know, Darren, I'm not putting you down or anything, Darren, because I know with respect, you wouldn't do this. You would rather someone else do it. Now,
if I couldn't stand it, I just said I wouldn't do it myself because I'd rather be...
So for you...
It takes too much of my time.
For you, it's $220 US to get this fully made. So this is what I'm saying. This company is, and there's about 3 or 4 other options in between. There's chip only, fully assembled kit, or just the PCB and the chip only, which I think is the $6 thing. Anyway, so you can see him making this thing, and that's what it looks like finished. It's a pretty sexy looking module, I would say. I actually really like the way they've designed it. It's got some really cool parts to it. So what I can tell you about it, there's 2 sequences, obviously. You can see them. They're both 16-step sequences. They've got a little key bed on each sequencer. So they're basically completely independent of each other. You can make them dependent on each other as well. But if you want, you can have them with their own internal independent clocks sequencing a whole bunch of different gear. Or you could have one using the other as a transposer, which would be a cool thing, right? I can see some really cool things out of this. Anyway, you can use it as a clock divider if you wanted to. You can run it in parallel, so you could run one sequence, then triggering the next. So there's a whole bunch of cool things. There's a decent amount of connectivity on this as well, which I thought.
What's maximum step per sequencer?
Yep.
How many can you go? How many steps?
16.
Only 16. Okay. Right.
Yeah, 16. There's things like rest and holds, and there's looping.
Ratchets.
I'm not sure in the firmware. They talked about multiple sequence memories, songs where you can string sequences together.
With it, then.
Live transposing, which is the thing that I'm interested in. So one of the things that I've always liked about sequences is being able to transpose something live, which some sequences completely don't do. Now, is there a little... I don't know if this guy's got a little demo.
For you, there's no mystery, there's no guesswork. You can pretty much just see exactly what's happening.
Let's go back further. I don't know if it's in this video. Maybe not. Probably just testing it out there, guys. But I wasn't really watching that video for the demo of the actual module. I was watching it more for the build. But I kind of like these guys, Division 6. They're not like a massive company. There's probably just one bloke behind it. Maybe a couple of guys. I don't really know anything about them, by the way. So someone in chat may know them. But $220. If you had Darren, if you were to buy it because you don't want to build it, right? $220. I think's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. I'm sure I was looking at this before I even got my Metropolis, because didn't it have a silver front at what?
I think it did. Yeah, it's been around for a while. Yeah,
and I was looking at it before I got my Metropolis.
Yeah, yeah. So there's kind of 2 points here. You can talk about either. There's this dual sequencer, which looks pretty cool with a little keypad on it, and you can. By the way, the keypad is really cool because if you're creating your sequences, you use the little keys to set up your steps, just like you would on a SH-101, that sort of style. Or you can talk about the DIY of what Korg thinks DIY is. The Odyssey. We know what real DIY is here.
It's DIY in a suit.
on a silver tray with hors d'oeuvres. Yeah,
I do like this better than the one that has the SH-101, like the QWERTY key things that came out recently. It's kind of a fat module that only has one lane.
Yeah, with the sort of thicker keys. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's like the QWERTY style keys, so soft touch keys.
Yeah, they're like little micro switches.
At least it has 2 rows. So.
Yeah, and the fact that it's like two independent sequences. Like ALM, yeah. So link will be in the blog article if you guys are interested in that. It's been around for a while. Chatties would probably be able to say it's an old product, it's been around for ages. It has, but I think the new firmware on it makes it even more interesting than what it was originally. People would probably buy this if they wanted to have a bit more sort of a performing type sequencer. So like Chris, you're mucking around with the 183 at the moment, right? With your
182,
182, sorry, with your module.
Yeah. Yes, certainly.
And that's a real performance type sequencer, the 182. And with your module, it'll probably be even more so, right?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much more of a, you visually can see what's happening, which leads you to be a little bit more interactive with it. Literally almost feel like the electrons are going through your hands and stuff, if you want to get like that. But it is more of it's not quite the same performance level though as I think it's there's 2 different kinds of performance, isn't there? There's kind of the beat step type philosophy of performance, and then there's the sort of the really old sort of 70s analog synth behemoth type ethos, and something spectrum in between. So but it's very much a for example, that thing won't start unless you press the red button. So that's already a different thing to get involved in already.
Well,
But
you can get it to start without pressing the red
you
button.
can get it. Yeah, that's right. Yes,
It's got the trigger in. You can do it.
Trigger input.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get. I meant you have to set up a patch to do it. But
Yeah.
I meant if you
On its own, yeah.
but nothing plugged into it. Yeah, you have to press the red button. That's a trap for newcomers.
Usually they tell us not to press the red button.
It's nice to have that though, because I have a Variegate 4 that has no start stop, but the Variegate 4 Plus has a start stop. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it's wouldn't have been nice if they'd added just a little bit more above the original. That would have been really nice, because now that's the sort of the limitation that I hit with it, is the whole sort of if I could just reset the position in any way. So I'm just having to get more creative and find different ways of simulating the same thing, and maybe I'll discover something really interesting on the way. That's just one way to think about it.
So at the moment, doesn't it like, so if you do stop it, it stops where it was through the steps, right? And if you press start it will continue from where it left off.
No, I know using the red stop button, it restarts again from the beginning of the sequence.
So it goes back to step 1.
It does reset.
Right.
And if you put it in repeat mode, where the trigger input is just starting and stopping it, of course you're resetting every time you re-trigger, it starts again. But you're not really controlling. You kind of have to, you have to get creative with the triggering, I guess, and still keep it in sync. Which means you need more logic. Which is,
be careful, you could end up building a metropolis again.
And that's the thing. That's the thing I'm careful not to do. If I spend way too much time building something that I could have bought for a fraction of the price and the time that I spend, I'm more trying to keep in mind that doing things a little bit differently is important to keep it different. And also it may lead to a kind of a different discovery, leading to doing things a slightly different way, which is kind of the whole modular ethos, I think. So,
well, that's the thing. If you can come up with some quirkiness that sequences adds value to it, then people are going to be like, "Ooh, this is cool."
I've already
basically stops you right where you are, and there's a reset button to start it all over at the beginning. So you have that option.
Yeah.
So that's the principle of having the reset. But I've already thought of ways to extend the functionality beyond that testing patch I showed on Discord. On this GP82, I'm thinking about other modes that actually do clock manipulation, because that's another way of creating rests, which of course you don't normally get unless you're willing to sacrifice one position for that rest. You can do that on this thing, the software I've got it running now, whereby if you just set it to if the second sequencer is giving control voltages for gate length, you just give it a 0 gate length and you get a rest that way. But I'm also thinking about using the clock divider in there, because it has a clock divider. So the idea being that you can have your regular clock going into it, and then you can have the sequence actually affecting the next clock, so that you got one step and then that tells you what to do to the next step. And things start getting potentially interesting there, and a bit sort of chaotic and kind of discovery type mode, where you're not actually trying to achieve a sequence that you have in your head. What you're trying to do is discover something. So I think that's where the GP82 is sort of heading.
Yeah, maybe even like a quadratic type thing, quadratic behavior, where it could be exponential, it could be linear, it could be sequential.
Also randomization.
Yeah. Yep.
Another thought is putting in some randomization into it so that you can get random ratchets. What probability of a ratchet appearing on a different step. You get some pretty interesting evolving patterns that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got lots of ideas now that the hardware is working. It's software time, so going to be quite interesting times.
When you get it sort of to a point where it's functioning, we can do a show on it and you can talk about its development. Yeah, Awesome. Now,
I could do a demo.
yeah. So
I'd love to do a demo with multi-camera.
Last thing but not least, we said that we might talk about oscillators. We might.
Such a tease.
I think we should talk a little bit about oscillators. But I think it really needs to be a show where we don't have news like Behringer, like completely spamming the entire.
We need the slow show again, slow news week.
We do. We need a slow
we
news
missed
week.
we missed the Micro Monster as well.
Yeah.
From GeForce software.
Let's start with a real basic question. What is your favorite oscillator? As in, like, who makes it? Who makes your favorite oscillator? Because it's very careful. Be very careful about the answer, because you sometimes get romantic about things, right? And you might be thinking, hang on a minute, I like this synth because it's got a cool filter and it's got a cool envelope and it's got a cool, oscillator. But what is your favorite oscillator? And staying tuned with the oscillator, why is it your favorite oscillator?
Actually, that's a good point. My favorite oscillator is one that stays in tune.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it. I don't mind as long as it stays in tune. I'm the guy that had the Moog that wouldn't stay in tune every time I went and played live with it. So any synth with an oscillator that stays in tune gets my vote. Really.
Yeah. While you're on there, you've got experience with the Mini Moog, right? You've got a Korg 700 above your head there. And you've mucked around with synths for many, many years. What oscillators tend to gravitate towards you more than others? Is it a Korg? Is it an ARP? Is it a Moog? Is it something else? Is it a digital one?
It was never the Moog, because I mean they solved this problem obviously decades ago. But when I first started messing around with synths, it was such a pain in the arse that the Moogs wouldn't stay in tune, or they'd stay in tune for a bit, and then literally, I was playing with them live, so I would literally, I'd tune it 20 minutes, switch it on 20 minutes, half an hour before the first set, check it again, and I'd have to check it throughout the 40-minute set, because it wouldn't stay in tune for an hour, and that was like I said, was it a Prodigy? Oh, Prodigy! I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, as we know, it burst into flames. So I mean, and I'd obviously owned the 700, which I have to say that the oscillators on that were rock solid. So to go from something that was a very simple synth that yes, it didn't have any effects and you need to use external effects, but the oscillators were never a problem. You tuned it I used to use a guitar tuner, tune it to what the rest of the band were doing, and it would just stay in tune, till next time you came to play it, really. So I think, to answer your question, the Korg oscillators are probably the one, the original. And I'm not talking digital now, I'm talking analog oscillators. That would be my first choice, really.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I had Poly 6s. I had, I mean, obviously, by the time we got to DW 6000, 8000, we were digital, but the Poly 6 was rock solid from an oscillator point of view, and I loved it, although it weighed a ton.
Anyone else want to mention what their favorite oscillator is? Because I've got a few I could talk about.
I don't have a favorite oscillator.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing that. Okay. It's interesting.
Or maybe me wobbling some cardboard.
It depends if you're talking about oscillator modules or oscillator, like standalone oscillator types.
Yeah, I'm kind of talking about generally like the feature of the oscillator in something that you tend to sort of think, well, this is kind of my sort of oscillator. I like the features of this oscillator. I like how this sounds. I
do like the Poly Go-Go.
Yeah, what's that?
It's just a different type of oscillator. It's that what's it called? Poly using polygons to create the oscillation and everything, where you can move it about So that's quite. I'd say that's an interesting one, but I wouldn't say it's a favourite one. I wouldn't say I really have a favourite one.
Mm-hmm.
My Juno might have been DCO anyway. That's never going out of tune. But yeah, I couldn't say I've got an actual favourite oscillator, because usually I'm putting it through all things anyway, so there's nothing particular that stands out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sort of unfavoured on oscillators. I like it at the time, and then I might move on to something else.
Okay.
Depends on what I'm working on.
Right. No one's.
I think it's what you do with it, isn't it?
Yeah. No one's really.
It's what you do with the oscillator.
No one's biting into this. It's good though.
No.
Well,
Chris, are you going to bite into it?
I'll show you my favorite current one.
No, I'm not. No. I'm going to be conventional and say I'm the same as Darren.
Okay.
I like whatever oscillator I'm working with at the time.
Okay. All right.
But bearing in mind, as I just bought a Mini Freak,
Should we just say it? Should we just
I
say
like
I like
lots
the
of different-
SH101 oscillator?
The 3340. All right. Andy,
Yeah.
what are you saying?
pretty high up.
I was just say, so I obviously like pretty much everything, but and the classic oscillators for the analog stuff are really great for various reasons, as long as they're stable, because the temperature thing is always a nightmare. But my favorite current one is actually a duo from Synthesis Technology. It's the E950, E951 with the panel, and it's basically I can't see that too well there, but the guy from Synth Technology used to work at Texas Instruments, so he knows the speak and spell in and out. So instead of modding a speak and spell, he's actually put the proper speak and spell chip in a module and used extra RAM available to add wavetables as well. So in one module, you have a crazy massive collection of various speak and spell modules, and then also some wavetables as well. So instead of having a separate Waldorf wavetable, like this one next to it, which is also excellent, the NW1, which is excellent, Waldorf. This has speak and spell voices, which is so much damn fun to play with the speed controls and the just morphing the crap out of them. And it's not just fun to listen to, like you laugh a lot, but it's really cool for kind of creepy sounds and weird. People talk about granular all the time. But when you take the well, yeah, but when you stretch it way out,
F.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to do just weird timbres with it.
Oh, you need to get that. What's that thing that came out, Andy? That the module it's all to do with formant stuff that we showed. Oh, I've forgotten what it's called now. And it had all the sliders on it.
Is it new?
Yeah, it was only like within the last 6 months. I can't remember.
Not the Vector.
I'll talk to you about it off channel. I'll go do a search.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but anything that does weird stuff like that is always fun, because it's not just an oscillator. And it's not just a sample.
yeah,
It's digitally controlled fake speech that you can do all kinds of weird stuff with it.
yeah. So it's a sound source. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to show you a couple of my favorites. I don't even own this, and I own a digital VST version of this, which is nothing like it. But I love this oscillator in the RSF Cobalt, and I think somebody has made one of these in Eurorack, and I forget who it is now. But this is one of those ones that has a whole bunch of different waveforms that morph quite nicely as you sort of changing through the waveforms. It's not switching, it's morphing. Anything that does that is a cool thing. Can't remember if this is the actual one that does that, but there's one that definitely morphs through it. They actually, that is a cool thing. So that means that you're going to find sweet spots in the oscillator that aren't, at the standard things that you see, like the sawtooth or the square or whatever like that. So you'll find sweet spots in between. The other one wrong button. The other one that I like is, and I've told you guys about it a million times, is the oscillators on the ARP 2500, which has the switches that you can go from inverted to normal, and then you can blend the 5 or 6 different oscillators that they've got in there. So you've got sine, triangle, square, pulse width, sawtooth. It's a type of ramp sawtooth. It's different, and then you can blend all those oscillators together and form your own sound. That's a cool oscillator to muck around with. So anything that gives you more than just 3 or 4 waveforms, what's the standard that you see in so many synths? You just see saw, square, pulse width, and then something else like triangle, or it might be sine.
Well, you Ranzee and Andy like the Polygogo then, weren't you? Because that's
we do.
Probably right up your street.
Yeah. So
I'll put a shout out for the Moog subfatty with all the Moogs with the variable filter.
Yeah.
Where you can variable waveforms where you get in between the waveforms.
Yeah.
That's kind of getting that vibe, especially because you can modulate that. Which creates some really
which is nice.
movement.
Yeah. Anything that you can modulate would be good as well. The other one is the ARP 2600 is also a good oscillator in that sense because of the same sort of, it took its thoroughbred from the 2500, so that's also good. And okay, so that side of it is kind of what I like. So it doesn't have to be a brand or anything like that. It just has to be something that gives you like massive amount of options, So you talked about the Mini Freak before, Chris. When you think about that thing is insane how many options you've got of sound generation, right? So that's that's another good thing. There's plenty of synths that do that. The other side of it that I kind of get nerded out about is how well an oscillator is made. And I encourage you guys to go and watch this video. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, but Nick Batt from Sonic State did an interview with David Arland from Roland when the System 500 brought out their next round. So this was sort of at the stage where they took the manufacturing back off Meleco because Meleco heavy industries weren't making the modules quick enough, and so they brought them back into Japan. And as a result, they released, I think, about 4 or 5 more System 500 modules, and he was showcasing that. But what Nick did is he put the oscillator on an oscilloscope, and one of the things that you'll find with the System 500, the 512 especially, is they are absolutely beautiful waveforms at the low end, where you'll see a lot of oscillators completely fall apart, and they're absolutely beautiful at the high end as well. So that's something that I like to see, a proper analog oscillator that is doing the waveform, that it's drawing it on an oscilloscope properly. It's absolutely doing its job. Some people might say, I like oscillators falling apart because that makes them quirky. Yeah, I mean, you probably might like that as well. But so I just wanted to shout out to Roland, because when they've made this, they did a really good job of, those guys made some really good analog stuff in the day, and I just wish they would keep making them, because I'm probably on my own here, but I think that SH4D should have had something analog in it. I mean, they really missed a trick in that. They were really good at making that stuff. Why they stopped doing it, I don't know. Anyway, say something. You guys were going to say something?
I was just going to say that your DIY oscillators, because I've been looking at I see a lot of that on my travels because I'm in those groups. That's precisely what the DIY oscillators don't do. They are terrible at low frequencies. Yeah. They completely change through the frequency spectrum, and that's something that the people who build them are looking for. They're seeking that out. Whereas what you're talking about is virtually sort of like the hi-fi end of analog electronics, where you're talking about fidelity and shape and form, and that is precisely why I have a whole lot of I have the 2600 and 2500 oscillators for that exact reason. Same reason you're talking about. It's just so beautiful. It's a totally different spectrum. So you get really crunchy stuff out of these lower tech, sort of less pretty oscillators, and that's really good sometimes. it's sometimes really good to have that mixture, that contrast between something that's really silky and beautiful and something that's kind of a bit harsh and edgy, and that's a form of beauty in itself. So I'm in both camps. What you're talking about, I get, and what other people talk about with the little grittier oscillators, I also get.
Yeah,
so
no, it's well said, for sure. Now, if you were to look at like one of this is not the original Model D. Sorry, I don't have money to go buy one of those. And plus, I live in Western Australia, and there's probably, I don't know, I would say there's probably less than 10 in existence where I live here, because it's just something that people just don't have. But the way the oscillators are set up on this is pretty much what sparked the whole synthesizer revolution, in a way. Not necessarily the first, but the way this is set up. So you've got your oscillator, and then you've got your your mixer and filter and VCA and things like that. That's kind of the way it's set up. So your subtractive synthesizer design. But specifically, if you look at the way the oscillators are set up here, you look at this and you'll think to yourself, this is what we see everywhere. We see a waveform switch here. We see a range, whether it's low to high. In some cases, it may even go LFO. In this case, this one does. So the low range. And it may even go higher than that, where it's actually out of hearing range. And then you'll have a tuning knob. In that case, it's the first oscillator's tuning, and the second and third are here. And that is probably the basics that you're going to see everywhere. Sometimes you won't see as many as this waveform selection here too. You've got triangle, saw, ramp saw, pulse width, the two different types of pulse widths, and square, and you may see sine in there, which I like to see, even though a lot of synth people say, well, you can do sine with a filter. Why do I need it? As long as it's got keyboard tracking on the filter, why do I need to have a sine wave on an oscillator? Go ask ARP, because the sine wave in the ARP 2500 is a beautiful sine wave, and it's really, really handy to have as an oscillator. So I'm not mucking around. I'm not losing a filter. I'm actually needing that sine wave to do other stuff. Very handy, like FM. Hello. And the other thing that you want to see in an oscillator is, and you can't see it in this, is things like cross, mod, and sync,
hard sync,
and
soft sync.
Yeah, and then FM modulation. This has got FM modulation in this. So frequency modulation is basically some sort of LFO modifier to the oscillator that changes its pitch. In some cases, you want to have pulse width modulation as well. And things like that. So these are all the things that you want to see in your basic oscillator. The reason why I'm showing it is because I know there's going to be people that watch this and go, you didn't cover the basics. Well, if you want to look at a basic oscillator, this is probably a bit more than a basic oscillator, to be honest. The Model D is a good place to start. I would say probably, we talked about the MS-1 or the SH-101. I mean, that's a really good place to start. If you're new to oscillators and you want to kind of learn your craft in the world of synthesis, that's a really good place to start, because it's pretty basic. It's got a sub oscillator. It's a single oscillator. You can't muck it up with accidentally setting sync on it or whatever. It's pretty basic. It sounds amazing. It's a 3340 oscillator, so go from there. Any other one want to add to that? I would. Really brief, by the way, that was.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah. The Juno 6 is quite a simple one as well, a bit like the SH-101.
Yeah, they're modelled after
quite
it.
Easy
really,
to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And what that does is it may take away some of the scratchy head moments from us. Like we were looking at the Cobalt before, right? Probably not the best example, but probably not the best example here, because I was going to say most people will probably pick up that pretty easily. It does have synchro on there, and it does have modifiers as well as pulse width as well, so that's probably covering it. But there are some oscillators I find that may be a bit of scratchy head stuff going on, and And you know, when we get presented with that, if the company that makes it hasn't written it well in the manual, or they haven't, the user interface design
manual, do they do manuals?
Yeah, if they haven't done it properly on the interface design, usually people part with those products, and there could be something incredible about that engineering in that particular product that's being left on the table, and people are just like, I noticed in chat there was lots of mention about the Timberwolf. Lots of mention about the Timberwolf. So, should we bring out the Timberwolf and talk about the oscillators and that? Probably not.
Yeah, but that's up there with the really, really, really professional stuff. That I don't know, it might be a bit tricky.
Yeah,
That's
that's
bit
real
out of our
scratchy.
league, isn't it?
That's a different type of scratchy head, though, isn't it? That's like what the hell did you do, Akai Scratchy Head?
With the lagging,
You sound great.
I mean, if you want to go way back, one of the best oscillators I think is the theremin, whether it's vacuum tube or transistor.
Yeah,
It's just a beautiful, warm oscillator. It sounds like
Yeah.
a human voice when you play it the right way. It can also sound nasally when you dial it in a certain way.
Yeah, it's got a raspy
Just
sound to
it's
it,
just
doesn't
a
it?
classic sound. Well, it can, but it can also be super warm and soft and beautiful, like a female opera singer.
Up the higher frequencies, yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh,
as
it's great. Yeah.
as it's vibrating more. Yeah, I think like anyone who's starting out with oscillators too, I think visual tools are really handy. I mean, obviously, this is the most important thing because this is what we're generating it for, right? But if you've got some way of actually seeing what you're doing, and that's Korg, we're doing it with the Minilog, what's the other one? The Minilog and what's the single voice one version called? Ian?
Monologue.
Monologue.
the one
Yeah, monologue.
Monologue's a great little synth. Yeah,
It's got the little OLED display.
Yeah, I use the bass on that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the oscilloscope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not
Visual
expensive.
feedback.
Yeah, just
Not
don't buy
expensive,
just don't buy a bass Minilog.
Oh,
No.
Speaking of mistakes that Korg are making,
Yeah.
No, the monologue's brilliant, and it's not
Yeah, it
expensive.
is.
Yeah.
you picked up on something there,
It
Rant,
seems
to
to be
do with
overlooked quite a bit now, but it's
Chris?
to do with
Yeah, it is.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, to do with the hands.
Okay.
We've talked about our ears,
Mm.
but we interact with things with our hands.
Mm.
I honestly think there's a little bit of that hand-eye coordination that all of our brains are designed to pick up on. That when you, yes, I know you've got to listen with your ears and hear what it's doing, but when you're actually tweaking something that's visual, like a control panel, this is part of the reason why we love hardware synths, of course. You get a connection that goes on in your brain, I think, and you get a memory there, and that's part of what leads you down a road where you can much quickly achieve sound design because you've had that experience and it's imprinted in your brain. So I think there is something to be said about the hand, the eye and the hand-eye coordination with hardware synths and synths in general. Because of course, even with the mouse clicking on the screen or using a touch screen, it's still hand-eye coordination. So I think what you're talking about, talking about design of oscillators and making them more understandable, so that people can. That's the thing. That's what you pick up when that happens, and that understanding becomes in your subconscious, and you're not even conscious that you know it. You just find you able to get sounds out that you were trying to you aim to achieve, purely because practice. So yeah, I'm
Muscle
big
memory.
advocate
Doesn't that
of the
come
whole.
back to less menu diving as well?
Oh,
Hence,
Mm.
the hand-eye
It
coordination.
takes you out of that state. Yeah, menu diving takes you out of that mental state where you're laying down those kind of memories.
Yeah.
That's the problem with menu diving in general. But it's technology.
There we go. The more knobs, the better.
Now the other part,
Yes.
that we probably should talk about, and I'll use the Minimoog again because I'm being lazy and it's right here. I could have used something else, but the other part that we should talk about is when you have multiple oscillators, right? So we talked about the one oscillator. Now we can talk about when you've got multiple oscillators, and you'll probably see there's a lot of synths out there that either have one oscillator or they'll have two oscillators, or in this case, there's three. And then there's some that have got things like one oscillator with a sub, or two oscillators with a sub, or you've got the Behringer Deep Mind, which has got one oscillator with some sort of funky second oscillator that isn't quite a full oscillator. I don't know how they've done that, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, so if we're looking at this, what I wanted to sort of get to was, if I can get my keyboard back, hello. If I can get this to change back to this. Here we go. I can take that sample and hold off. Right, so that's just one oscillator, right? Sounds pretty pretty cool. Let's get it a bit louder. Now, when you've got the second oscillator, and you might have that tuned to the same pitch, and you might have the same wavelength. As soon as you muck around with the tuning on that, this is where the magic happens. And you get that sort of fat sound. Take the resonance out. Then you bring the third one in. Let's do the same pitch and the same... Can I do the same waveform? Yes. Then you get that beating sound. So that's just the same waveform mucking around with your ears, because the waveforms are firing at the same time, and there's a slight difference in pitch, there's a slight difference in maybe amplitude with the mixer. I'm not sure if I got that perfect or not. So you're getting that kind of weird sort of beating sound. And it sounds really thick, right? Which is cool. Another thing you can do is then you can put the square wave and a different pitch. Which square wave should we use? This one. And then it's doing a whole bunch of different stuff now. And this is just mucking around with the oscillators. I'm not touching the filter. There's that Moog sound. I mean, that really is the Moog sound right there. So that's the other part that I wanted to talk about, is when you have more than one oscillator in a synth per voice. In this case, it's just one voice. Doesn't really matter. We're not talking about voicing at the moment. We're just talking about sounds. But there's so much magic in just the ability to mix the different waveforms together of the oscillator. And that's what we, this is why we love synths, really. The next stage is, the filter. That's the next stage. But really, this is where the sound is coming from, is the oscillators. And that, whether you're beating it with the pitch, whether you're changing its timbre with different waveforms mixed together. Because if you looked at a oscilloscope and you saw a square and a sawtooth coming out with two sawtooths and one square, it wouldn't look anything like a square or a sawtooth. It would be kind of noisy looking, right? So what do you guys think about that part of it? Is that important?
Absolutely. That's interesting. Yeah. I was going to say the Minilog, you just mentioned the Minilog before with the waveform display. Just detuning two oscillators and seeing those saw waves crossing over each other.
Yeah, it's good fun.
And that seeing a spectrograph is the other thing that really opens your mind.
Yeah,
when you see
the frequencies,
all the frequencies going around, you're going, that's such complexity out of such simple building blocks.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. That's what we love about synths is the fact that you can get so much nuance and creativity out of seemingly simple, discrete, components.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the spectrogram, we're talking about fundamentals as well. And when you're listening to a synth, you should know what synths have what fundamentals. It's actually pretty important, especially if you're mixing, right? So some synths have really good bottom ends. And Nick talks about, he does that face, right? He goes, there's a bottom end on that. You guys can't hear it, but I can hear it here. But he shows it on his, he's good at it. He shows it. And the fundamental is, it might be 30 hertz. That might be where the fundamental is, right? So depends.
Speaking of bass, your bass on that demo sounded better than that Toro demo. So
was good to say exactly the same thing. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think we must have all been thinking that.
Yeah.
Well,
And of course, when you've got things like the Soma Lyra 8, which has got 8 oscillators, and tuning them, that's half that beast really, because it's unless you use a guitar tuner or something like that, you're having to tune them by ear. It's completely out there, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, tuning a monosynth or tuning a polysynth, I actually think it's, in a way, it's a frustrating thing like you had with that situation where you're having to continuously tune it. But having the ability to tune something is important, because that might be the difference between it sounding too clean and clinical in the mix, or for it to sort of sit a little bit out. A little bit
I felt I'd gone back 30 years after the show last week, because I did go back. I did go and thanks to your video, I went and tuned the Behringer Model D. I did the fine tuning, but it was fairly straightforward. But I mean, it just sort of took me back to having to wait till the bloody thing warms up, and then
So, look, to be honest, the Behringer one stays pretty stable.
It does once it was
10 minutes.
Up,
Yeah.
Well, it was a bit long for mine. It was about 20 minutes, but once I got there with it, it did. It stayed. I mean, I left it on. I ate it on for 2 hours, because I sort of did it just before tea, left it on while it was over tea, and came back just to check it, and it had stayed in tune. It was fine then, just to make sure that those fine tunings did work, really.
I mean, that's the thing with my eurorack, is there's a lot of analog gear in that eurorack, and I have to tune stuff all the time. It's annoying as hell, but you get used to it. Okay, this is the procedure. I'm turning it on. I've got to wait 15 minutes for the System 100 stuff. I've got to wait maybe 20 minutes for some of the others. I noticed that the Behringer 2500s are pretty quick at coming up to speed with, and they stay dead on, which is true to what the original oscillators were like. They stay dead on. If you keep them turned on, they'll stay completely in tune. It's almost like
funny because
you could use it as a tuner. That's how good they are.
My 700 has got a slight fault, and it probably takes me half an hour to get it tuned. And you leave it on for a bit to warm up, because they're really old components. But then using a guitar tuner, they're obviously. I mean, it's got to go to Kent at some point when probably when I've got 2 or 3 things to send, I'll send it down, because I don't use it that often. But it literally, if I'm going to use it with anything else, I have to spend. I know I've got to give myself about half an hour just to get it tuned properly, because and they never used to be like that. It's just it's just because of its age. I mean, the damn thing's 40, 50 years old.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Wagoo said the anonymous.
Yes.
Question.
Yeah.
You have 2 oscillators, and then you did tune them. What?
Yeah.
What do you do after that? You shut the door and walk away. That's what you do. Otherwise, you end up with thousands of dollars worth of synthesizers.
You retire.
Yeah.
Thanks for the truth.
The money starts flowing out of your pocket at that point, continuously.
Dearie me. So look, I think we'll still keep going with the oscillator stuff, because I feel like we've got a show to run, and we need to sort of fit all the normal stuff in. But I think this discussion was kind of chipping away at the oscillator topic. I feel like the oscillator topic has got a lot to talk about, to give you an example, we talked about the Nick Back thing before, right? If you guys are bored during the week and you think, what can I watch? Go watch that System 500 with David Arland, purely because it actually, there's a few things that video does. It takes us back to what products were being launched 6 years ago or whatever it was. So I think the TR-8S was just around. I think we even talked about it in the show today, Andy, was the SH-01A, the boutique of the SH-101. He used that, and he used the CV control of that, and all that was kind of a fairly funky new thing, right? And there was obviously the System 500 modules in there as well. But geez, it sounded good. It sounded so good. And you had it going through the TR-8S. It's got the external input, and that meant he was able to use the reverb and delay in that mixer, and and David's a good demoer, so it does mean no way I'd be as good as that guy. That's why Roland pay him the big bucks. So anyway, I think we should finish the show for the week.
Okay.
All right.
Hooray! You made
That's
it.
it,
It's late here in Perth, in Western Australia.
I'm sure it is.
11:27 p.m. Probably going to get told off for doing too long a show. But I needed to talk about oscillators, because otherwise I think people will throw their synths at the screen in disgust.
There's the corny line that Ricky Tinez always says, "See you later, oscillator."
See you later, oscillator. Yeah, don't forget the aggregator. I did see Robbie jump in, which is nice.
He's in there now. Yeah,
He's in there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hope everything's going all right with you, mate. Take care with everything. On that note, we should sign off. Who wants to say quick words before we go?
Yeah.
I'll just say one thing. I just want to say,
great weekend.
You go.
Sorry, I was just going to say to Mr. Andrew Brooks, good luck. I believe he's in Synth doing an E-mom at the moment.
Yeah,
I believe.
Apparently, he's up against Robin Vincent.
Oh,
so that'll be interesting. So that'll be
a synth off.
Yeah.
Good luck, mate.
Off.
Good luck.
Yeah.
They'll be throwing patch cables at each other.
No. Yeah. Break a leg, Andy.
Well, big hello.
We haven't mentioned him tonight. I thought we'd better say hi.
Break a leg to Robin Vincent.
Good luck, mate.
He's an awesome guy as well.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah. All
I'm sort of slightly gutted that I can't be there, because I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, we would be needing to get on a plane for us to be there. So,
yeah.
You guys can just jump in your car. Your Peugeot 403. That matter.
403.
Yeah. Who wants to buy one now that I've said that? They're kind of funky. I'm going to start a new fad. People are going to. Peugeot will remake them.
Start a Facebook.
No, we might have issues with clean air now, because there's a lot of towns and cities putting the clean air thing in.
They were pretty stinky cars, let me tell you. I'll give you the tip. The carburetors and those things used to fart and do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, they were good. Nice to have you guys on, of course. Ian, thank you very much. Chris, thank you very much for taking the reins of Brooksy. Hard shoes to fill those ones, mate. Did well. You did well. Darren, you did well. You stayed warm. See how much different you are when you're warm.
I'm warm.
You're actually normal.
You're
not cold.
I'm sweating. I'm actually warm.
And Andy, holding up the USN. Thanks, mate. Good on you.
Hi, all. Gotta have some fun.
Disco. Yeah.
Disco balls.
Hey, I need some lights. That's what I need after my heater.
Yeah.
And chatties, thanks for being part of the channel as always, guys. You're awesome. Many thanks. On that note, we will end with a bye. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. I'll have a good one.
Stay synthy.